Hello and welcome to Whose Cap Is It Anyway? Where the skill ratings are made up and the points don't matter. I'm Dallas Easy Fight today, joining me here as per usual, Matt Smite Ross. And tonight, it is indeed the final night of the Overwatch Pacific Championship round robin play. It's been an incredible journey so far, Smite, but tonight for our first two matches, we're going to have Hong Kong Attitude in their back-to-back. Then after that, it's going to be Detonator Gold in their final showing of the tournament and their back-to-back also. So very, very excited to see Hong Kong Attitude in their last showing of the OPC here tonight, Smite.
And
taking
also,
on Fireball.
Also another team who's going to have their final showing in the first match of tonight, Fireball, who have played so impressively in the last few weeks. In fact, last night, going toe-to-toe with Hong Kong Attitude. No, sorry, not Hong Kong Attitude. It was AHQ, I believe. We went to a fifth match.
Yes.
It went the distance, and we couldn't believe it, especially after a King's Row where hopes were crushed for Fireball. It looked down and out. It looked like a quick 3-0. HQ couldn't finish the job, but, well, they could by the fifth match.
They did indeed.
But the team that Fireball will be playing is, of course, Hong Kong Attitude. And if we're talking about impressive performances in the most recent weeks, this is the team to talk about. They couldn't quite get that undefeated round of the round robin against Flash Wolves last night, but they're looking to finish off things with a bang. 2 wins to pick up today.
I mean, you've spoken very highly of them here, and I mean, I really wanted to see them come out and at least pick up a map win last night against Flash Wolves, but Flash Wolves looking very dominating in what was likely to be their last sort of competitive match of the OPC. But Hong Kong Attitude definitely have come leaps and bounds ahead compared to the start of the tournament. And same goes for their counterpart that they will be playing in the first matchup tonight, which is indeed Fireball, who I am so excited to see take it to Hong Kong Attitude tonight. As you can see, our schedule for this evening, Sun Sister taking on Hong Kong Attitude right after this. Detonator Gold versus Sun Sister, and to finalize the evening here, Flash Wolves will be taking on Detonator Gold. I mean, the big thing tonight to talk about as well, just before we get into this matchup, is if Sun Sister can get themselves a win on the board, Smite.
Apparently, they've already got a 3-0, but just a little bit of an error, probably.
See, where the games are made up, and the points, they do not matter.
That's okay. That's okay. But maybe it's a sign of things to come. Maybe we will see Sun Sister pick up their very first win of the entire Pacific Championship. And my heart is crying out for a victory for these guys. They have been trying so hard, and they have been improving so much. So it would be fantastic to see them pick up a win, especially against their rival team, Detonator.
Well, we just saw on the pre-game sort of coach talk there, obviously I'm not so good at translating myself, I'm no Avril, but there was a little bit of hugging going on between the two coaches of these fair teams. So very good to see that there's a good bit of friendliness between the two of them, and that they're obviously looking forward to this matchup. And I think this is going to be a real test for Fireball, obviously having such a strong showing against AHQ last night. This is now where they look like if they can get this win over Hong Kong Attitude, it'll be very, very good for them moving into Season 2.
Well, that's the thing as well, right? There's going to be hugs and happy faces all around, because today there is no way that any team can change position in the leaderboard. These games are, I'm not going to say meaningless. They're definitely going to have an effect. All teams are going to go with their all to get that victory and have the best showing before either the playoffs or Season 2 of the OPC. So it's definitely going to be competitive, but the pressure isn't there anymore. Fireball don't have to worry so much about losing out their position, dropping down even further. Hong Kong Attitude as well, they've already got their position locked in. So right now, this is just going to be two teams giving it their absolute all with the best showing that they possibly can without any of the stress.
I mean, that's the thing as well, isn't it? You know, they're really wanting to put a show on now for the viewers. We saw obviously a lot of sort of crafty compositions, a very fun few matches to watch last night, and I expect very much the same this evening. If we take a quick look at the scoreboard and the standings overall here, we do see Fireball very, very safe in their 6th position there, escaping relegation. I was going to say narrowly, but definitely not, as Detonator Gold and Sun Sister will be facing the relegation playoffs later on this year. But Flash Wolves indeed sitting very pretty up the top there, and Hong Kong Attitude with a very strong start to the tournament, obviously fell off partway through, I believe, the second round robin into the third as well, but have recently regained that form with Marchi being hot on their heels, did not want to lose that 4th place position to Marchi Esports.
Hong Kong Attitude's only real drop was, like you said, it was around the middle of the tournament where Marchi started improving and just showing absolute surprises for everyone. They beat Hong Kong Attitude in a few matches, and that was the only real matches that Hong Kong Attitude dropped, where they really, if you looked at the leaderboard, shouldn't have actually dropped anything. But now, in this final round robin, unfortunately a little bit too late to get into playoffs, but they are still beating top teams. They beat AHQ in a series, they beat Blank in a series, couldn't get the job done against Flash Wolves, but at this point in time, I don't think anyone in the OPC actually can. We'll see more from the Flash Wolves later on, and perhaps then you'll see why. But in any case, Hong Kong Attitude have looked incredible in the last round robin, and I'd put them up in second place in power rankings right now.
Well, Fireball will have the home side advantage coming into this matchup, and again, we saw them with such a strong showing last night against AHQ. I really expect this to be such a close series. Titawat turning up immensely on that Winston last night, and Endinar, when their backs were against the wall, coming out strong. Obviously, Apudo being very, very consistent. And I mean, ninth, when his soldier wasn't working out for him bringing that diva out on Dorado was absolutely insane.
This is actually such a common theme, though. Teams just going back to the 2-2-2 with the diva, suddenly they start doing better. Here's Hong Kong Attitude for everyone as well. A lot of standout players are, usually it's the DPS players, and it's going to be no different here. K4 being the big one, of course. A star player coming out from that team, but take a look once more back at Fireball. You just saw Rocket on the screen. For the majority of the OPC, he was actually the main tank of the team, but with a few roster shuffles and addition of Titawat, as you can see on the screen there, Rocket's back on support, Titawat on the tank, and like you said, big improvements.
And there he is, the man himself. NZNR needs to come up big if he's going to be looking to take on K4. I mean, that's the big one to watch out on his opposition side. Apudo having a bit of a warm-up here. Some star jumps, a little bit of stretches. You like to see it there. Genji, quite a nimble hero.
I think he was pulling out the Dragon Blade there. There's a heart as well, just to show that he does still care. But yeah.
I never thought that he didn't, mate.
the fact that he was pulling out the Dragon Blade or putting it away, I'm not sure. Maybe that's a sign that he's ready to play some Soldier today, because that's another thing about Fireball, is that they put one of their star players, Apudo, almost exclusively on the Genji. Occasionally you'll see him come out on the Soldier, but his Genji is really hit or miss. But when it does hit, it hits hard.
And Mango, this is going to be who Kurlos is going to have to watch out for. His counterpart, Ana player here, very, very strong with positioning and getting those biotic grenades when they need them there. And obviously K4, such a strong hit scan player, also bringing out their Genji from time to time, which is very immense.
Yeah, I'd really rate K4's Genji, but the fact that he's playing a lot more Soldier now is, again, a lot more refreshing. You don't have to worry about a whole lot of the risks that come with playing Genji. Also, Shailin, talking about star DPS players, he's stepped up a lot, really competing with a lot of the top Tracer players in the entire tournament. Arting is, he's a tank that he gets the job done, but I'm not going to say in spectacular fashion.
And Jin Kao being very strong. His Zarya when he sort of brought it out as well. And obviously being able to flex onto the Pharah, very strong sort of flexibility coming out from the side of Hong Kong Attitude. And I think, again, this is going to be a great test for Titawat, showing what he can do on his Winston there. Obviously, coming up against AHQ last night, I expected him to have a little bit of showing, but not as strong as he came out with. So this is probably going to be the big key, I think, for Fireball moving into the series.
I mean, look, here's the thing. Yeah, Fireball did amazing against AHQ last night, where they took it all the way to 5 games. But those first 2 matches, they did not look hot at all for Fireball, especially when they went to Hybrid on King's Row, which I think was their pick as well. And that was, I said it during the match as well, that was the most one-sided map I've ever seen. Not just the King's Row, but the most one-sided map in the entire OPC that I've ever seen. That was the quickest 3-cap, the most defiant first point hold. And so Fireball, it's like the Apudo thing, but you can apply it to the whole team. They're very hit or miss. They can look incredible when they do finally hit, but oh boy, when they miss, it's not good. And unfortunately, it can happen a fair amount. And coming up against Hong Kong Attitude, they've got to scrub up those consistencies, right?
I mean, I don't think we sort of talked about it yesterday, but there was a tweet from Apudo where, I know you mentioned their shopping mall sort of extravaganza, but where Apudo was up early yesterday and the rest of the team was still having a bit of a snooze, not ready to warm up with him. So the thing was, is maybe those first 2 maps were the warm-up games for the team there, and now obviously new day, new sleep, new dawn. Hopefully they've got some time to have some rest, and they have warmed up prior to this one. So I feel that if they are coming off that momentum of yesterday, this is going to be a very good showing for Fireball.
Yeah, I reckon Apudo just went into everyone's bedroom, woke them all up, shook them, made sure they were
Made them get up and do some star jumps.
Up at the crack of dawn, doing star jumps, getting ready, warming up for the match. And It is an important one, and like I said before, yes, the pressure's not there. No one's going to change positioning in the leaderboard, but Fireball, I mean, look, they had a great showing against the third place team, AHQ. Why can't they do the same thing against Hong Kong Attitude? There's no reason that they can't.
I'll tell you why, though.
Why?
I think it's because CQB and Mango Jai are just far above and beyond the support players of Fireball. So I talk highly about Tita Watt there. You know, the DPS players can stack up against K4 and Shayu, but when it comes to pure support play, the players from Hong Kong Attitude, far above and beyond there.
So that job then becomes for Fireball, it's not actually on their own supports to step up to match those. I mean, yeah, that would be great if they could, but it now becomes Apudo and Entrenar's job to go and deal with those supports, take them out before they can really have any effect on the match.
Well, Fireball looking to melt the snow here on Nepal. It's going to be their first pick on Control. So Fireball being the home team to get to pick the first, third, and fifth maps. Obviously, Hong Kong Attitude second and fourth. And I mean, Control, we've talked about this before, you know, this being one of Fireball's strongest sort of map styles, but last night wasn't a very good performance from them.
It wasn't fantastic, but that was against AHQ, but then again, they're still coming up against Hong Kong Attitude anyway, so they will still have to bring their all. Against AHQ, it wasn't their map pick, so they were forced to go to Lijiang Tower, but Fireball, this time, they're picking it. They're going to Nepal instead, and this does play a little bit more into their own playstyle. Sanctum can be a bit more of a hectic map style. We've seen some hilarious matches on that stage there with the bottomless pit. It just brings so much volatility into it, but there are still 2 other stages on it. It's still going to be Fireball having to bring their absolute all. Expect Apudo to continue playing on the Genji, because unless something's changed from yesterday within 24 hours, he's still showing a lot of favor to that hero. Doesn't seem to want to go onto Soldier at all, and that's where I believe Hong Kong Attitude are happy to swap things up. Maybe if their Genji's not working, if it is being a little bit inconsistent, K4 is happy to swap over onto that Soldier.
And it's much like the tale from yesterday there, where Apudo, Fireball have all their eggs in that one basket there. NZNR is quite good on the Tracer, but, you know, Apudo on the Genji, it's the style of Genji play, you know, it's either he's coming up big or he's gone to bed there. And I mean, you know, not referencing the sleep dart onto Apudo's Dragon Blade a couple of times there, but...
Or referencing the Facebook video where he's literally sleeping in a department store with NZNR, but...
The thing is that he's either going to come up big or Fireball are just going to be going home and still sitting on 9 wins.
Yeah, which is a bit of a shame. They definitely want to be getting up to that double-digit wins. But again, yeah, I'm still going to remind everyone that these matches are not going to affect the leaderboard, so the pressure will be off. We might see some crazy things come out as well. That's another possibility. We actually saw it yesterday. Now, I believe Machi were still trying to win with what they were trying to do, but let's just say we saw an Orisa, a Bastion, and a Junkrat within about 30 seconds of each other. And then within that 30 seconds, they swapped off them. So it clearly didn't work too well, but teams are willing to try these things out. And I'm hoping we get a little bit of that today.
Well, we're moments away from getting into Nepal. Can't wait to see, obviously, if Fireball have sort of expanded their compositions just ever so slightly. It's one of the biggest weaknesses that I feel Fireball have had throughout this sort of entire run of the OPC, where they have sort of tunneled themselves into playing that classic dive composition. I feel they need to get a little bit more flexible. You know, we've heard it from Zonda's mouth there, loves playing Soldier because of the ability to poke with that. And I think if they can sort of change their entire dynamic of the team and not just rely on that dive with Apudo's Genji and NZNR's Tracer, this is where they're going to find themselves in a lot stronger position moving into Season 2.
Another thing though, I'd like them to flex a little bit less and bring Knight back onto that D.Va. It's just such a strong defensive hero, and Defense Matrix is such a fantastic ability. I rate it so highly, one of the best abilities in the game, up there with certain ultimates as well. In fact, it literally counters ultimates itself. So as you can see, Knight sticking back to that D.Va, but like you said, classic dive style is coming up from both teams.
But what they've really got to watch out for, you know, Kurlos being a decent Zenyatta here, Mango Jai, extremely good aim, and that's going to be, again, as I mentioned, the key for Hong Kong Attitude. Their support players very aggressive and very strong, and you have to really watch out for them here. A little bit of exchange going now on the stairways here, just looking to gain position, both of these teams. And K4 just slightly looking to probe and get around into the back lines, but not finding any openings just yet.
This is actually really cool as well. Finally, we get to see just a full-on dive comp going up against a full-on dive comp. No soldiers in sight. It's going to be very important to coordinate between both these teams, getting into the back, getting those supports, because focusing the tanks, it's not going to be as much of an option because you don't have a soldier.
Well, Fireball getting themselves a decent position there. Apudo getting a little bit too big for his boots as he goes for that dash. Trying to line up a lot of damage through Hong Kong Attitude, but they really make them pay for that. Titawat going to be falling straight after to the Diva there, and now the rest of Fireball quickly to follow off the back of that early aggression from Apudo. Indina resets. Hong Kong Attitude first cap of Nepal.
Fireball do cut their losses though, they back off, they only lose 3 people. NZNR are actually taking a dive, so Hong Kong Attitude aren't going to be that far ahead of them in terms of ultimates, but even K4, right, he's not even halfway towards his Dragon Blade. Apudo is actually matching that. Both Traces have their Pulse Bombs. The big difference is going to be Transcendence, but you're usually waiting for a Dragon Blade for that anyway.
Hong Kong Attitude as well did have the good position to start off with here, and while NZNR throws his Pulse Bombs into nothingness there, Shayu manages to connect his right on Titawat as he jumps in, and now Shayu in such a strong position dealing to these retreating Fireball players there. Apudo to fall down to Jin Kao, and Hong Kong Attitude thwart this attack before it even starts.
And it was, like I said, right, the Pulse Bomb is going to be a huge factor in that fight because Transcendence is just going to be held for later on anyway, and that's what Hong Kong Attitude are planning to do because they know now is the time when Fireball can come back in. Apudo is very likely going to be close to his Dragon Blade. He will get it during this next fight. Turn on that Transcendence, everyone will be safe. Fireball cannot rely on this Dragon Blade to get too much value. They need to be ready for it to be countered.
And K4 finally just getting his Dragon Blade up as well, but Apudo going to need to come up big, but the Transcendence now from Mango going to be used very quickly here. Rocket Sound Barrier, will it be enough to keep Fireball alive through this fight? They do pick that kill up onto Shayu Lin, and that's a great start for them there, but the return kill now onto Rocket, and Apudo still holding the Dragon Blade, waiting for that perfect time. NZNR does find Mango Jai there, but it is going to be a Ting managing to jump all over Fireball right now. Shayu Lin gets back into the fray and takes down NZNR, and this is surely looking like it's still Hong Kong Attitude in control as they pass 84%.
And it's like you said, Apudo is still holding on to that Dragon Blade. He waited out both of the Transcendence and the Sound Barrier, and I thought surely after that he was going to throw it in. Fireball, it's like they're almost playing a little bit too conservatively, but they do need to eventually go all in on a fight now.
Well, Apudo looking to set up now. They do have that Transcendence. Kurlos does indeed hit this one. This is going to be now or never for Fireball. Apudo still holding the blade, needs to bring it out as K4 draws the sword, draws blood all over Fireball right now. These players are dropping left, right, and center, and there is nothing that the rest of these Fireball players can do about it. Titawat does have a Primal Rage though, so this could be enough to hold them out. No, it's not, as Hong Kong Attitude just maul him on the point. Overtime ticks down. Hong Kong Attitude leading the series 1-0.
And that First half of that stage, it felt like Shailin just getting way more value than NZNR was entirely, getting a Pulse Bomb kill, getting more kills after that, charging up his ult for the next fight. But then the second half of that story was Apudo holding onto that Dragon Blade for far too long. I can understand the first fight. Yes, you've waited out both those defensive ultimates, but at the very least going into the next fight, which is, by the way, the final fight, Dragon Blade's got to come out at some point. By the time Apudo got his hands on the sheath, K4 had already cut down half a Fireball.
Yeah, and the other thing to note there as well is that Apudo was slightly ahead of K4 on the charge there. Shayu was doing a little bit more work, I feel, in the early parts of the game for Hong Kong Attitude. So if he did manage to beat him out to that first Dragon Blade and get it out after those two defensive ultimates, it would have been very, very big for Fireball to turn the tide. But now both of these Genji players switching up to Soldier.
And Shaolin actually going onto the Roadhog, making Hong Kong Attitude a triple tank composition. Roadhog, of course, a lot of things he can do on this map. Hooking people down the hole is definitely going to be one of them, but also just shutting down any Winston that jumps into him, shutting down a Tracer if he finds a hook, but Defense Matrix is such a good tool for shutting that down.
Yeah, did manage to land the hook there, but couldn't convert that into a kill for the side of Hong Kong Attitude, but they do now have control of the left side, and this is going to be strong for them as they can abuse that higher ground area. Look at K4 looking to set up. Rocket does boop a Ting off the edge, but it's just a little bit of a consolation kill as now Fireball stranded on the point. Will not be able to find too much off the back of those early kills now coming through from Hong Kong Attitude. Apudo all by himself there. Does actually manage to escape somehow, some way, as Kurlos takes down Jin Kao's mech. And now Fireball answering back out of nowhere. And Apudo has that tactical visor to work with. This is absolutely insane, but pressured instantly by a Ting with the boost there. And Shayu Lin hitting that whole hog as well. Hong Kong Attitude, when things were looking grim, turned the tide of battle very, very quickly. Another boop actually coming through from Rocket there, thwarting Shayu Lin in his tracks. And this is frantic right now. Hong Kong Attitude did indeed get themselves the first cap though, so positional advantage goes towards them. And now Fireball looking a little bit split out here. They lose NZNR, and this is now looking good for Hong Kong Attitude to close it out.
This doesn't look like a fight that Fireball can clean up at all, but they're still throwing everything into it. They're still trying to cap this point here. Hong Kong Attitude, they're happy to just continue this fight.
Apudo committing the tactical visor into this with everything. They've got the Primal Rage and the Transcendence, and they're turning it around, Smite. They're getting themselves the recap. Don't even let Hong Kong Attitude get to 30%. CQB, see you later, mate. An absolutely great turn of events there for Fireball. When things indeed back against the wall, they come out swinging.
And now they also have Sound Barrier just to be ready for when Hong Kong Attitude come in once more. Hey, K4, he's got that Tactical Visor, but how is that going to get through Sound Barrier and Defense Matrix? Fireball should be fine for setting up on the point. They've got enough tools. Enzidar is going to have to find some kind of value on that Tracer, though, in the background.
Well, they're looking to break it down now. Sound Barrier coming through from Hong Kong Attitude as they pick themselves up a pair, make that a triple. Player advantage coming in their way. Also, Cap ticking very quickly for them. Here comes the self-destruct from Ninth. Doesn't find anything there at all. They are managing to get themselves a contest off the back of this. Apudo with the Helix rocket, but Hong Kong Attitude all over them with K4's Tactical Visor, forcing them back, and they recap the point.
Oh, so back and forth. Definitely not like the first stage that we saw earlier on. Fireball, they can come back in. They've got Tactical Visor and Hong Kong Attitude. They've actually swapped their composition up. Shylin back on the Tracer. Jin Kao is continuing on that Diva, and that's going to be the biggest thing to shut down Apudo's Tactical Visor once more. Fireball, they still have all the tools they had before, but now they need to use them offensively.
Enzo now looking to get that pulse bomb out. Looks like it was eaten there, so that's a disaster now. They really needed that to connect. Even trades now across the board. They do lose Kurlos, though, on the side of Fireball, but Ninth right up in their grills there. Helix Rocket finding Mango Jai. NZNR just looking to set up and push these Hong Kong Attitude players off that high ground over there, and now they do have control of the point. There is a slight contest coming up from Hong Kong Attitude, but I don't think they've got the bodies. Oh, NZNR looking a little bit slippery there, like the stage is made of ice, almost slipping off. But great stuff now from Fireball to regain the cap, and now looking to gain position.
Well, they've got a little while to go. They can't really give the point over anymore because Hong Kong Attitude are sitting at just above 75%. However, that does give them enough time for one desperation push, even if they do lose here. They have Transcendence to survive any kind of onslaught, but after that runs out, they don't have a whole lot left. Apudo's going to have to build up that Tactical Visor during the fight itself.
Well, Titawat also getting close to his Primal Rage there if he does manage to engage into this next fight, as Hong Kong Attitude looking to push off the high ground. And if they can actually manage to find this kill onto Titawat, that would be absolutely huge there. Just escapes in the nick of time. And now Apudo looking to get his Tactical Visor up here. And the Transcendence now from Fireball. They need to find more kills and not lose NZNR amongst all of that healing. There is that Tactical Visor coming through as Titawat takes out Jin Kao. So no Tracer. This is going to be a great time for Apudo. But K4 going to be hitting his Tactical Visor at the same time here. But he picks up Kurlos, and that's going to be all he can find as he's going to be forced back as Titawat's all over him.
K4 actually channeling his inner Apudo. They're holding on to the Tactical Visor for far too long. By the time he actually found a good position to use it, half his team was already dead. Fireball take it out. They bring it back 1-1. And Hong Kong Attitude, at least, they are bringing the fight back. But Fireball, look, if this trend continues, they're going to be the ones 100-0ing Hong Kong Attitude.
And you know, I'm really happy to see that coming out from Fireball, you know, showing some strength in their Soldier Apudo play. Trying not to sort of match K4 Genji for Genji like we saw on the first stage is something that I feel that, you know, even though Apudo's is very good, K4 is exactly the same, an extremely strong Genji player, something that we know him for there.
Their rivalry actually goes all the way back to when they were both playing in Southeast Asia a lot. During Summer Series as well, they were on different teams. A lot of the time it was coming down to these two Genji players just facing off against each other. But here's going to be the first difference. It's going to be Apudo with the Soldier, and it's going to be K4 playing the Genji this time. There's a lot of dive, a lot of kill potential that's going to come onto Apudo. He has to play so safely.
Well, if Fireball can gain a strong position on the high ground for him, that'll be what they're looking for, and putting them in a good position to get this first cap. NZNR just looking to poke on the sides there, but gets taken down, and this is what I was talking about. Mango Jai, so very sharp here on the Zenyatta, deletes NZNR, and now Fireball, if they are smart, should retreat back, but they all get caught in this enclosed room here, and this is where Hong Kong Attitude just looking to take the fight straight to them. Cap unlocks, and Hong Kong Attitude should surely get the first of the map.
But similar to the first map, they cut their losses, they get out of there. In fact, only giving away one 150 hit point hero is not the biggest deal for them, so they don't give away a huge amount of ult charge. But looking at K4, he's close to that Dragon Blade, but it's matched by Apudo anyway. But Apudo is going to find it much harder to get a good position.
Somehow, some way, Fireball have recapped the point, over this entrenched position they've got now on the low ground here. Apudo looking to get close to that tactical visor, and now Fireball coming up with all the frags as well off the back of the sound barrier from Rocket. So amazing turn of events yet again for Fireball. They've figured something out for the side of Hong Kong Attitude, and things are starting to fall their way.
That cap should never have gone over to Fireball straight away. Sure, they can win the fight, but Hong Kong Attitude could have got at least another 10% out of that anyway. Now it will be the battle of the DPS ults, but Fireball are the team with the defensive ults ready to counter them out. Hong Kong Attitude, they're not close to Sound Barrier, they're not close to Transcendence. Fireball can throw their ones out, they can survive the Dragon Blade, and that's when Apudo, if he needs to, can throw the tactical visor out and still mow down through Hong Kong Attitude.
Well, Fireball with an extremely new showing right here. The Dragon Blade coming through, gets absolutely destroyed by Apudo's tactical visor. Great counterplay coming out from him here. Now NZNR looking to really clean these supports up for the side of Hong Kong Attitude. Great stuff here from Fireball. Didn't even need to commit too much into that. Apudo, great positioning there, and they don't even stack up for the Dragon Blade. Now they're definitely ahead on those ultimates there.
Oh, it was risky by Apudo though. You could actually see his position. He wasn't near the Transcendence, about a second away from getting to it. And if K4 had just gotten there a split second earlier, he would have actually taken him out, taken out the tactical visor, and then gone nuts with the rest of his Dragon Blade. But Fireball, the risk pays off. They shut him down entirely, and they've still matched everything blow for blow. The pulse bombs are going to be what this fight is going to be all about.
Oh, NZNR, you sneaky beaky, gets up there, drops a bomb into Mango's face, but it looks like Shayu does exactly the same to Titawat. Don't want to be losing the Winston at this point in the fight, and Shayu also picks Kurlos up as well.
Health.
So definitely doing a lot better here. Come on, you can find him here, but greatly baited here by a Ting. Pulls Apudo in on 1 HP, hits the Primal Rage, and then turns it around and smacks him into the wall and back to the spawn. Amazing turn of events there for Hong Kong Attitude. Surely they can get a recap off the back of these amazing kills.
I'm just still enraptured by that 1 health. That was ridiculous. I mean, you see it on Genji and Tracer, but 1 health on a Winston, and then he used Primal Rage anyway to get all the way back up. That was incredible. But Fireball, they've got a lot of progress so far, 99%, but this time they're the ones facing down the barrel of a double defensive ult. Hong Kong Attitude can make this fight last a decade if they need to. Overlap those ultimates, Sound Barrier first, then into Transcendence, and they can survive for an incredibly long time.
And there comes the Transcendence from Mango. So Fireball have managed to bait out one, now smartly retreat off the back of the Transcendence coming through. Mango Jai actually very low here, needs to watch out, but NZNR pays as the dash lands on him from K4. And now the sound barrier also from Hong Kong Attitude, so Fireball definitely need to retreat. Ooh, Apudo almost getting caught out there, but does fall back into position. And now Fireball looking good to move in.
This is fine for Fireball because they baited out both the defensive ultimates finally. It did take some percentage, and the DPSs on Hong Kong Attitude did get to build up their own ults, but we've seen how Fireball can shut that down. Apudo just shoots down K4 during the Dragon Blade anyway. Without a Transcendence, without a sound barrier to keep him alive, it's fine.
And now the Tracer v Tracer battle, but the sound barrier from Fireball going to be allowing NZNR a little bit more breathing room. Now Apudo with the tactical visor gets destroyed right now. Jin Kao and K4 together take him out, but NZNR coming up massive, finds himself a mech and K4 with the pulse bomb. Shayu though still being a pain for the side of Fireball, and he gets taken out there. And the recap from Fireball, and they take a lead on Nepal 2-1.
Easy, what are we seeing? Fireball a 2-1 up against Hong Kong Attitude. I've been praising Hong Kong Attitude the entire broadcast about their performances lately, even so much as Fireball. But look, Apudo
maybe even he's a little bit surprised.
I feel like he's got to be a little bit surprised. Yeah, see, that's it. See, right? He was sheathing the sword at the start of the match, right?
To bring out the soldier.
It wasn't him about to pull the sword out. It was him putting it away. Because we know his soldier right now is feeling a lot more effective. Yeah, his Genji can be good sometimes, but right now his soldier is far more consistent.
And I mean, this is working out really well for Fireball when they put all the pressure onto Apudo for the side of Hong Kong Attitude. NZNR there to clean up a little bit of the slack. And I mean, came up extremely big in that final fight there. His pulse bomb finding so much mileage. I mean, even off the back of a Ting surviving with 1 HP and taking Apudo out. Amazing stuff from Fireball.
NZNR definitely stepping things up, absolutely. But this time, Hong Kong Attitude not going to waste time with that Roadhog at the start, sticking Shailin on the Tracer. They know they need to match NZNR and get the value that he's been getting. The battle for this high ground is so far going to be won by Hong Kong Attitude.
Shailin, great stuff there to take NZNR out early on into this engagement. And now Fireball need to be careful though, but Rocket booping Mango off the edge. Great stuff there, but now Shayu, look at him starting to go to town on all of these big heroes from Fireball, taking out the Winston, now looking to just push down Rocket. Rocket does manage to get away, and now Fireball look to answer this, getting themselves onto the point as Hong Kong Attitude pick up the first cap. Kurlos going to be taking out a Ting, but they do not have the mech to go with, so now K4 going to be able to reign supreme over here on the stairway. Does have the tack visor as well. Oh, but absolutely great pick off from Apudo, jumping on his head there, and that is going to be a huge turn of events now for Fireball as they get the recap.
Well, this time it's not Fireball cutting their losses. They're saying, we haven't lost this fight just yet. You may have the point, but we're going to come back in and take it before you even get 20%. And also the fact that K4's tactical visor is not going to be a factor in this next fight is absolutely huge. It means Rocket can hold on to that sound barrier or just use it literally to try and brute force a win, get more time on the point. And of course, we're not even considering the DPS ults here. Tactical visors on the table. NZNR has found great pulse bomb so far. Can he find another one?
Well, let's see how they go. They still are waiting to see when Apudo is going to be using that tac visor. Pulse bomb coming through from NZNR doesn't find anything at all. And now Shayu looking to hunt him down. And Shayu definitely showing he's the stronger tracer in these engagements here. Generally winning these 1v1s, and Hong Kong Attitude answering with force. Apudo needs to come up big. He's only found one with this tac visor. Is there anything to follow? A Ting with the Primal Rage here as well, going to be thwarting Knight's mech. He should be soon to follow as well. And Hong Kong Attitude turning it right back on Fireball, recapping now, and now they'll get that 20% smite.
The series is far too intense, and we're not even through the first map right now. But Xiao Lin winning the Tracer battle, pretty big there. But also in the background, Apudo threw out the tactical visor and didn't find anything with it. So, he found something there, and that's actually going to be huge because now Fireball can move in, win this fight with the numbers, try not to use any ultimates at all, and if things go bad, they can just throw out a sound barrier. But Primal Rage has been used.
Well, now they are looking like they want to contest the point on the side of Fireball after dropping K4 extremely quickly, but they need to remember he's looking to get back into the thick of things as soon as possible. Nice self-destruct going to be taking Kurlos out. Didn't manage to get himself into a safe enough position, and now the sound barrier from Fireball. Is it enough to push them through this fight? Tita Watt needs to fall back. Indeed, he gets himself out alive. Now Kurlos looking to rush back in with that Transcendence, but NZNR going down early yet again. Shayu going to be back into the fray now, doesn't have too much pressure put on him without NZNR trying to fight him now. Tita Watt to fall, K4 another tactical visor, no more mech and no more cap. It looks like for the side of Fireball, they will be able to contest ever so slightly, but Hong Kong Attitude looking to recap.
They want to contest just a little bit longer, but they do get it to 81%. That's okay. Now they can win one fight and force Hong Kong Attitude into a bit of desperation. But the question is still there. Can they win one more fight? They do have some time to do so, and they've got Transcendence to weather the storm of the tactical visor. They've also got Apudo coming up to his own one. It's going to be also some mind games, some games of chicken on that.
Oh, what a pulse bomb from NZNR. What a great start taking out Mango Jai, but still having to run away from Xiaolin. Now the Transcendence from Kurlos looking to put the Fireball players in a very aggressive position with that tactical visor, but it doesn't actually find anything at all. K4 taken out, so huge value for the side of Fireball, and they only lose Rocket in this engagement now. So this is a very good start for Fireball, but this contest from a Ting is going to buy Hong Kong Attitude a lot of time here on the point.
Fireball actually lost Apudo way at the start of that fight as well, and Tactical Visor wasn't going to be a thing. Oh, down the hole he goes. But Apudo, he also used Tactical Visor once he got back, didn't find anything with it. And Fireball, they're falling like flies here. Hong Kong Attitude should be able to hold.
Insane stuff there. Fireball getting a lot of mileage early on into that fight, and now we're going to be forced into desperation mode of their own here as Hong Kong Attitude 98, 99%. Overtime ticking down. K4 uncontested over on his stairway yet again. The nano boost onto a Ting, forcing a lot of these squishies back for the side of Fireball. Just like the rest of them, they're dropping just like their hopes at taking out the stage on Nepal here as Hong Kong Attitude are just cleaning them up. That overtime's ticking down. Contest from Tita Watt stopped right here, right now, and that's going to be that. Hong Kong Attitude equalized. We're going to stage number 5.
Stage number 5. Who would have thought in a Fireball versus Hong Kong Attitude matchup? Even though they look close on the leaderboard, Hong Kong Attitude's performance have shown that they should be the favored team to win this match. But we've talked about how Fireball do look good on control. Even though it didn't look so hot last night, they're coming back. They're looking a lot more like the team that we've been praising them for on control. And this is talking after they've just lost the stage, unfortunately, but they did get it to 81%. These have been close, but this is the stage where Hong Kong Attitude never gave up the point. They held it the entire time, but there's a difference this time. And Apudo playing Soldier.
Well, they need to get him set up in one of these higher ground positions, or at least try to keep him safe if they are going to keep him with the team, if they want any hopes at taking this out. Obviously, K4 are going to be looking to pressure up on that high ground if Apudo does opt to go for it.
All right, it's going to be a fight over the stairway here for both teams. But remember, I said this on another match, it's going to be about keeping Apudo safe because there's going to be a lot of dive on top of him. But Fireball have the option of also focusing down the tanks of Discord Orb onto Arting as soon as he dives, and Apudo can actually take him out incredibly quickly with the help of NZNR.
And a good bit of chip damage coming through from K4 and Shayu as they just look to chip away at the health of Fireball there. Apudo looking very low, does manage to sustain himself through this. Cap falling in the way of Fireball in this early engagement, but they now have lost their mech. They have lost Hitawa as well, so both tanks down. Shayu going to be able to retreat. They did manage to kill K4 into this engagement, but Hong Kong Attitude with a stronger position on the point do get the first cap, and now Apudo forced back out of here.
Oh, he actually turns around and gets a kill. Double kill, actually, if you include himself. But Fireball, it took a while, but they did end up losing that fight. Shailun actually finding a lot of value. Now, Fireball had the right idea. They entrenched themselves on the point, which forces Hong Kong Attitude to use their movement abilities to move in and attack Fireball. And that's when Fireball should have been the one to strike. But unfortunately, didn't take advantage of that opportunity. But the fight wasn't super one-sided, so Fireball can come back in with this.
Well, it's going to be a lot on NZNR's Pulse Bomb to find its mark here. They have been either very big or very small here. Now there comes the Transcendence from Mango. Hong Kong Attitude still have that sound barrier. Fireball have already used their own, and there it is. That's a big one right there with the double kill there for NZNR, taking the mech out as well from Jinkao. So now Apudo going to be able to go to town on Hong Kong Attitude, and that was the fight they needed to win, taking the cap off Hong Kong Attitude as they get to 41%.
NZNR is having the game of his life now, getting all of these pulse bombs. Maybe they weren't hitting so hot in the first two stages, but this time they are, and now they can rely on Apudo's own tactical visor, specifically to shut down K4 and his Dragon Blade. But Hong Kong Attitude do have the option to throw a sound barrier onto him first so that he can get in there, survive the onslaught, survive that initial damage from the tactical visor, and then start picking up kills and get the resets.
They also need to deal with Jinkao's mech as well before this goes ahead, so a lot of things that a Fireball are going to need to deal with before they try to use that tactical visor. It's going to be all on if anyone can find themselves a pick. Nice reflect coming from K4 there. Doesn't manage to find a kill, but actually Apudo is just going to drop the tactical visor very early into this. Doesn't get anything out of it. You see Mango Jai up on the high ground gets taken out from Apudo, but as K4 hits his Dragon Blade, finds a little bit there, but wow, self-destruct from Ninth just clips him as he tries to retreat down the stairway there. And now Shaolin looking in a spot of bother, 22 HP, makes it to the health pack. Apudo almost cutting him off. Now the 1v1 duel, Apudo will take this one out, as well as Fireball as they hold onto the point.
And Hong Kong Attitude, they threw everything at that fight. They threw all of their ultimates. Now Fireball, they've still got a Primal Rage, so even if they lose this fight, they can delay it out. They can bring it up to, at the very least, 90%, and then set themselves up for one more fight win to take the first map against Hong Kong Attitude.
Fireball wanting to take Nepal away from Hong Kong Attitude. Obviously, their pick coming through this. Hong Kong Attitude with almost a last-ditch effort here, looking to control those left side stairs once more. And Shayu just looking to chip away. Now they've caught where most of these Fireball players are positioned. A lot of this is going to come down to the timing of if they can catch any of these picks around the back on the squishy heroes. But all the ultimates for Fireball is going to be very hard to deal with.
Shailun, he's got to find that pulse storm, he's got to find it quickly and get value out of it.
And there comes the sound barrier as well. Mango Jai using the Transcendence. They've managed to pick that first kill up onto Kurlos, so there will be no Transcendence in this first little engagement for Fireball as he was getting very close to it. Even trades across the board, but Apudo's taken out. Shaolin manages to escape very narrowly with 22 HP while holding onto that pulse bomb. Jinkao as well with a self-destruct up as well. So this is going to be great now for Hong Kong Attitude, really looking to take this fight to Fireball onto the point. NZNR still alive, still ticking, does indeed have Rocket, but not for long, as Hong Kong Attitude just mauling Fireball now onto the point, looking to recap this one, and Fireball going to be forced into some more fights. Here we go.
Well, this is what I talked about before. Fireball are the team this time that threw everything at that fight, and so they should have, because it could have been the victory for them. But now they're in the position where Hong Kong Attitude have enough odds. They've got the self-destruct there. They've just picked up the sound barrier as well, which means now Fireball, it may take one or two pushes to finally get the fight win that they need, so they're going to need to go in quickly. The key thing about last time was Apudo didn't find anything with his tactical visor at all, got shut down. They need to build up to that and get value out of it.
The Fireball going straight up the guts here. Do not manage to gain control of either of the flanking sides. Shayu dropping the pulse bomb, doesn't find too much out of that. but they've got to watch out for that flanking side there, as Hong Kong Attitude can easily wrap around the side of Fireball as they put no pressure onto it. But that Helix Rocket onto a Ting, good stuff there for Fireball, but they're getting very close as they use that sound barrier. Now comes the Dragon Blade from K4, managing to take out Kurlos. He's not been long for the world in these fights here, but Apudo baits K4 in, finds that kill, but they still have to deal with Xiaolin. This is the big issue here that Hong Kong Attitude have had.
They capped it over.
All over onto Fireball with getting the cap back though, so that's going to be strong for them. There comes another Transcendence. Insane stuff here from Mango Jai, getting so many ultimates in these engagements, but Apudo with the Tactical Visor, 6 HP. Can anyone keep him alive? Indeed they can, and Mango sent back to spawn. Only the mech here to really contest onto the point. What a read there, taking Xiaolin out with the rocket. There is indeed a Primal Raging a Ting, but Fireball have the players, they have the numbers. Where is Hong Kong Attitude? Oh, in the nick of time, there is a slight contest coming through. Is anyone there to touch it? It's K for real. Can he keep this one alive? Mango Jai charging up as well. Not at all, and Fireball take Nepal 3-2.
Easy, what a series we have on our hand. That was incredible. After the first stage, I saw that, I thought, okay, look, this is what we're expecting, right? Hong Kong Attitude, 100-0 Fireball. This is business as usual. But Fireball suddenly turned on. They just said, no, this is not the team that we're going to be seen as we finish up the OPC Season 1. We're going to come back, take a map of one of the better looking teams in the last round robin, and they're not finished yet.
Well, speaking of turning on there, I mean, a Ting getting himself the player of the game, but not only that, quite a few moments. I mean, going back to that 1 HP clutch, I would like to call it there. You know, hiding behind that pillar there, Apudo not being able to find an angle on one of the biggest heroes in the game to finish him off there. Baits Apudo in, hits that Primal Rage, and then slams him up against the wall. I mean, a very good showing from Hong Kong Attitude, but Fireball, halfway through that, you know, first stage falling in Hong Kong Attitude's favor, and then everything just started working for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've got to say the big switch was, of course, Apudo moving on to that soldier. I mean, I didn't expect them to do it in the middle of a series, but look, they did it, and it worked out perfectly for them. They realized K4 can become a big problem. The Dragon Blades, they were getting value on the very first stage. We saw, in fact, only one actually, but it was a very big effect where Apudo got absolutely nothing. So now when Apudo's on that soldier, suddenly he has to be the target, because otherwise Tac Visor comes out and your Dragon Blade is going to get shut down.
I mean, this is what I was talking about before coming into the series here, you know, trying to see Apudo get off that Genji, seeing him come up on the soldier. I mean, we've seen him play soldier before, but a lot of the time I feel it falls a little bit too short. You know, they've found a little bit of success when Knight sort of plays that soldier and they do their triple DPS, but not against teams like Hong Kong Attitude. And here we're starting to see, you know, Apudo in such a strong position. The communication now for the side of Fireball is definitely starting to work, and things, it's really that aggressive play as well that comes out from Apudo. You know, you don't often see him sitting up on a high ground like a lot of these other soldier players, you know, trying to play safe and force the fight coming to him. He just likes to go right in the grill of these sort of diving DPS heroes, and it's beautiful to see.
So part of that though does come from the nature of control, right? You don't get to sit up in the defensive position that you can on hybrid or assault, where soldiers will have that high ground already given to them. Instead, you do have to get up in the grill of them on control. So who's to say, maybe we could see a defensive playstyle coming out from Apudo when we do move to hybrid, which will be Hong Kong Attitude's pick for that map type, as they are the away team. And we have seen a recent poor performance from Fireball on a hybrid map. And so if Hong Kong Attitude are banking on something like that, then they can pick King's Row. But that may have just been a one-off for Fireball. That may have just been a bad, I'm not going to even say a bad day because it was a fantastic day, a bad match, a bad game for them. So, I mean, Hong Kong Attitude, you can pick King's Row, sure, but is it telling the whole story?
Well, here's the thing, right? Do Hong Kong Attitude have a strong enough showing on King's Row to be able to do obviously what AHQ did yesterday? Because the thing is, right, is that was that Fireball playing badly? I mean, yes, it was, but also it's AHQ being very, very strong on King's Row.
It's also very different team compositions, and I said this last night as well, is that it's triple tank. Both teams were playing that when Fireball were defending, and Fireball tried to dive on the attack as well, and it didn't work into AHQ's own triple tank. So Hong Kong Attitude, are they a team that can play triple tank well enough on King's Row, or are they happy to just play dive on both attack and defense? If that's the case, then we might see Fireball actually come out with a better showing against Hong Kong Attitude, because dive against dive, maybe throw a Pudo on Soldier, and suddenly we just saw that on Control. Fireball are happy to go up against that style.
Most definitely, obviously picking themselves up that first map on Nepal. Very strong from Fireball, and I think they really need that momentum moving through the series here, because obviously Hong Kong Attitude, I still feel have a little bit more depth, and when it comes to, you know, hybrid, this is when Hong Kong Attitude really thrive compared to the likes of Fireball. And so if they watched anything from yesterday and saw the match against AHQ and they take it to King's Row, the ball will be in their court to obviously secure themselves this win, but if Fireball can go with a very quick 2-0 lead in the series, it looks like they're going to close it out, Smite.
Well, I mean, okay, we were saying that when AHQ were 2-0 up against Fireball last night, but we'll take a look at the replay here, and it's going to be on the very first stage of Nepal, where this is, it's the final fight where Apudo held his Dragon Blade for an eternity. But K4 said, well, look, you miss all the shots that you don't take. So he pulls out his own Dragon Blade and just cuts up half of Fireball before Apudo even pulls out his own blade. And when Apudo finally does,
he gets baited all the way out of the fight there as well.
And because he didn't have his team with him anyway, even if he did pick up 1 or 2 kills, it's not going to be enough. Your team's in overtime anyway, so if you lose anyone on the point at all, then suddenly you run out of time and you lose the match.
I mean, I think that could have also been a bit of a misread by the side of Fireball as well. They might have thought that there was a sound barrier or a transcendence sort of sitting and waiting for them.
That can't be the case, because in the previous fight, both of those abilities were used by Hong Kong Attitude, and that's when I thought, okay, maybe this is when...
True, I do remember that now, actually. Yep.
After that fight.
Sharp memory.
Sharp memory, because I talked about it during the match, so I thought that might have been another moment where Apudo could have brought out his Dragon Blade, because it looked like, yeah, cool, you don't want to pull that out and get no value from it because the enemy has both of these defensive ultimates, but the fact is Hong Kong Attitude used them, and they weren't even 100% winning the fight after those ults had run out. So that could have been another moment for Apudo to bring out the Dragon Blade and get value from it, but he was way too conservative on that first stage, and it showed.
I mean, taking a look at Village here as well, what we really got to see there is, you know, this is when Fireball really started to turn up, and they really started pulling momentum in their favor. Obviously, Hong Kong Attitude got themselves a little bit of a lead, but, I mean, not a lead, sorry, a little bit of position here, but they managed to bait out the 2 defensive ultimates very well in these 2 engagements, I feel, from the side of Fireball, you know.
Yeah, that was the biggest thing, right? That Hong Kong Attitude went in really aggressively. They did pick up 1 or 2 kills here and there, but you've got to look at the top of the screen sometimes and recognize, look, they're on 99%. They just have to win 1 more fight, and we need to let them be the deciders of how to engage on this fight and then react. We've got to see what they're going to use. Okay, they're using Tactical Visor. Let's try and shut that down with 1 of our ultimates, that Sound Barrier, or even just use Defense Matrix instead. But what Hong Kong Attitude were doing was going in aggressively with their own defensive ultimates, in fact, both of them, and once they were gone, the very next fight, Fireball came in and took it down.
So I guess the real question is there, did Hong Kong Attitude underestimate Fireball slightly in the series there? Because, you know, Fireball picked themselves up that early lead, you know, Hong Kong Attitude turned it around and equalized, but then when, you know, their backs were against the wall, you know, and it came down to the wire, Fireball really managed to edge this one out. And I think it really shows there, that is quite a good tale of the series there, you know, Fireball showing a lot more methodical play there, you know, baiting out those 2 ultimates time and time again there, you know, not dropping it and giving away too much to the side of Hong Kong Attitude, and Hong Kong Attitude sitting there scratching their heads going, well, why aren't they fighting us?
Exactly right. I mean, why would you fight into both Sound Barrier, Transcendence? But this is going to be the final stage of the map, the replay coming up right now, and this is one of the earlier fights, and let's try and work out which one it was. But the story of this one, though, was, of course, Apudo playing Soldier instead of the Genji this time, and he actually got pretty much no value out of that Tactical Visor, but it did bait out the Sound Barrier. Actually, quite a lot of
Primal Rage as well.
Quite a lot of self-destruct kills came out in that fight as well.
Dragon Blade.
Yeah. There were a lot of ults during this fight, but I believe this is where Fireball actually held on to it for a very, very long time, and in fact actually ended up coming out on top. And this is a fight where, no, this is the one where Hong Kong Attitude threw absolutely everything at the point, didn't manage to cap it, and Fireball was still sitting there with a Primal Rage. They could have still held on to 99%, even if they lost the next fight, which is exactly what happened.
I think the key there was Kurlos. his transcendence that was timed perfectly, you know, with the Dragon Blade coming through from the side of Hong Kong Attitude to really counter out that play. As they obviously try to get onto Apudo, you know, it keeps him alive through that entire engagement there. And so even though he's used his tactical visor, he's now baited out all those ultimates from Hong Kong Attitude, and now he's free to obviously go to work, and his hit scan is obviously very, very strong.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, even though Soldier doesn't have ult, he still actually does damage, but we do have the next map pick coming through. It's going to be Numbani, and I'm not super surprised to see this pick come out either. Now, I mean, yes, if you watched last night, you'd say, oh, why aren't they picking up King's Row? But I talked about a lot of reasons why that's not indicative of how this match would go if they were to go to King's Row. Fireball may have lost heavily to AHQ last night, but look, it's a very different team coming up from Hong Kong Attitude. Triple Tank won't be nearly as much as a prevailing option for Hong Kong Attitude. Instead, going to Numbani, a map which Hong Kong Attitude, by the way, is also quite proficient at, so looking to their strengths instead.
But also as well, you know, Soldier, very strong selection on both attack and defense here on Numbani. So the thing is with Apudo really feeling himself on the Soldier today, I think that Hong Kong Attitude are in for a little bit of a shock here on Numbani.
Perhaps, but if we're going to talk about last night as well, let's also remember we went to 5 maps, right, Easy? We did also see a second hybrid, and Numbani was an option too. And even though maps 3 and 4, Fireball came back strong, they kind of petered out around map 5, and Numbani didn't look super great for them either. In fact, I don't believe they even capped the very first point. So that's perhaps another reason why we're seeing Hong Kong Attitude picking this one up. But the Soldier prevalence on this map is definitely going to be a thing, but an option for Genji on attack is definitely still there.
And I mean, the other thing to note there as well, if we're sort of comparing that to last night's matchup there, is that as good as K4 is, he's no Dizzy.
That's true. That's true. I don't think anyone is quite a Dizzy just
maybe
yet.
Zonda.
Maybe Zonda, but you know, we'll talk about him later.
But Dizzy's
on
no Zonda.
Yep.
But moments away here from getting into Numbani. It is now in Hong Kong Attitude's court to really nail this one and equalize the series. Obviously going to be their pick coming into this. And I mean, if Fireball get to swindle this one away from Hong Kong Attitude, this is where they're really going to start picking up momentum in the series.
All right, no surprises here. A Soldier on the defense with your stock standard dive composition hanging around the balconies around here. You've got your Ana as well, that nano boost. You combo that up with the tactical visor, and that is such a strong defensive tool, but you have to use it very carefully. Defense Matrix, a basic ability, can shut that down almost entirely.
Who do you think's on the defense here? Because I think this is Hong Kong Attitude. Okay, no, I'm wrong.
No.
God. just as they pop up.
So you could have been, you could have, you know, I'll give that one to you because Hong Kong Attitude also played the Tourbillon on CQB on defense, and we haven't actually seen it come out from Fireball a whole lot, but Rocket this time on the Tourbillon, I think this is the first time we've seen it, so.
And that's why I was thinking that was Hong Kong Attitude there, but very interesting lineup indeed for Fireball. And oh man, if they could jump on K4 there and get that early pick, it would be a nice start for them.
Yep, so we are going to be, oh, there's the nice start that you're asking for them, so they picked that up. This should surely be just Hong Kong Attitude backing off, trying to minimize their losses, but they are still losing a few people here.
Shai wants a lot of charge here, really just looking to pick at the side of Fireball, but Fireball definitely coming out on top as Apudo holding this balcony area across the road from the Tourbillon turret. And as well as that, there is NZNR on that hog to really assist any players that try to push up through that stairwell.
Yeah, it's such a tricky way to try and approach this for Hong Kong Attitude. Of course, one misstep and suddenly you're just going to be taken out by, like you said, that hook. And then you've also got to be so careful in how you engage because of the Tourbillon turret. Xiaolin really has his work cut out for him, really doesn't have the freedom that a Tracer usually has until they take down that turret.
Oh, well, K4 and Mango trying to be very sneaky there, but as Jin Kao comes elephanting up the stairs, Fireball definitely awares of this one. Now Xiaolin trying a little bit of a different approach, not trying to challenge the high ground too much here, as Hong Kong Attitude will send the Diva, the Soldier, and the Ana up there to now gain control for K4. So this is now a pretty good showing here for Hong Kong Attitude as they gain themselves a pretty strong position. But this hook here going to be sending a Ting back. They do indeed lose Rocket in this engagement though as well, so even trades across the board.
But I don't believe they took down Rocket's turret, so, you know, half of Tourbillon is actually still there, and this should actually be Fireball just cleaning up, especially with that whole hog.
Wow, they do indeed wipe them out there. I mean, the whole hog maybe not needed there, 170 HP, hits it out, and then obviously gets taken down. Could have probably saved it there. K4 actually using his tactical visor in that engagement there, and Fireball quickly turned that one around.
So also a little awkward for Hong Kong Attitude is that, like you said, Tactical Visor did come out, but now they've got a Nano Boost. It's going to have to go into Ating instead, unless they want to throw it onto Xiaolin, get him charging up that Pulse Bomb even quicker, finding kills very easily on the supports. But there's the biggest problem for that, is even with the Nano Boost, that turret will start whittling down Tracer's health. And, you know, Recall, it heals, but not very often.
Well, they do have the Primal Rage to work with as well, so Ating can go and tank a lot of that turret for the side of Hong Kong Attitude. Here comes the Nano Boost as well, looking to jump straight on to Kurlos in the background. They do indeed catch him out, so that's a great start now, but Ninth finding CQB, and this is also in itself a great counter play here now from Fireball as they find Jin Kao as well. The self-destruct did pick up Ninth, so no Divas as well, but Apudo hitting that Tactical Visor, going to be buying them a lot of time and forcing Hong Kong Attitude back off the point.
That was the strangest Primal Rage I've seen in a while. I mean, yeah, locking someone in a room, punching them into a corner, usually gets a kill, but a Roadhog who can heal, has 600 hit points, and, by the way, does a stupid amount of damage to big targets like Winston, is just going to shut that ultimate down. And even if you did get the kill, you spent so long doing it that it really got a minimum amount of value out of it.
And now Hong Kong Attitude really looking to put a lot of pressure onto this Roadhog of NZNA, but as you mentioned, he's so hard to deal with. And now hitting the whole hog cow, trying to catch Shayu in this enclosed room here. A greedy Pulse Bomb there, throws it out, doesn't connect at all, and NZNA still sitting healthy. Great piece of defense coming up from him. K4 getting very low, the turret just going to work on him there. Jin Kao Mechless as well, looking to build up another one. Probably will not get this up here as Fireball, an amazingly strong defense here on Numbani, which is indeed Hong Kong Attitude's pick. 15 seconds left. Ating needs to either get himself out and regroup with the team or die, and this will be disaster if they pick him off.
Easy, the Hong Kong Attitude don't even have a third of the point yet. This is Fireball first holding them as hard as they possibly can. There's 2 seconds to go.
1 second,
Are they even gonna make
here
it?
we go, overtime ticking down. Now here it comes, final fight of the matchup here. Nano Boost being thrown out onto Ating, really looking to draw this fight out. The Dragon Blade from K4, they do find NZNR's hog finally, and now K4 will indeed be able to help chase down Apudo. He's sent back as well. Now Hong Kong Attitude in their final last-ditch effort have found themselves some room to work with here. Now with Titawat though, insane stuff there, taking out Shayu and CQB. The Rocket's turret and himself go down as well, but Titawat just pounding away here on the point, just going to town on Hong Kong Attitude, looking to find Mango as well, catches him here. Can he withstand this onslaught and wait for the rest of Fireball to get back? The overtime's ticking down, but Hong Kong Attitude finally getting themselves some cap time.
They're still off the point.
They got off the point and they unbelievably have lost, well, have not got themselves the first cap. Fireball counting their lucky stars here on Numbani.
They still off the point. All right, okay, well, look, the majority of that was Fireball first holding them anyway, and that last engagement still very easily was, in my opinion, in Fireball's favor there. They were still likely to come back from that, but
exactly that.
crucial
That's why
mistake.
they sort of stepped off the point there to try and chase down, I couldn't remember who it was, but one of the final kills there just to stop, obviously, the re-engagement coming through. So, I mean, Titawat as well, definitely huge in those final few seconds of the game there. When everyone sort of forgets about him, he's like, hey, mate, I'm a raging gorilla right now. You need to remember me. Picking up 3 kills there, really keeping that one alive for Fireball.
Yeah.
A little bit of a misplay coming out from Hong Kong Attitude.
May need to remember him, but he didn't remember the points, which was a crucial mistake. But yeah, it was actually NZNR who they were chasing down because he swapped onto Tracer off of the Roadhog just to get back to the points in time. And that's one of the biggest reasons why Fireball were able to hold on for so long, because Numbani, unlike other hybrid maps, actually has a pretty close respawn for the defenders, and the attackers have to run even further, actually, I believe. I think it's a close distance, but it's slightly further for the attackers. But now the best option for Hong Kong Attitude is to force a draw and go to Golden Point. And I mean, it's entirely possible that they can win on Golden Point, that's for sure. But look, I mean, Fireball will have just as much chance as bringing it back there too.
And they are going to be going for the Torbjorn themselves. They're really looking to put it in a nice spot here, because obviously you saw Xiaolin, you know, looking to get himself on that stairway there in that flanking position to help get control of that high ground. And so Hong Kong Attitude are aware of this one. Going to be CQB on the Torbjorn, as you mentioned earlier, Smite. But what is this? Is this where we get to see Titawat on the Reinhardt?
Tito, what is happening here? Because we've got a Reinhardt coming out here, and it's not just a triple tank composition where you throw a Zarya in instead. This is literally just the dive comp, but you've thrown a Reinhardt instead, and that makes it obviously not a dive comp anymore.
Oh, mate, he can charge. You know, we'll call it the poor man's dive. Oh, Mango Joy already taken down early into this one. Great stuff there from Kurlos to find the final pickoff now. Apudo getting set up. Turret sent back as well. Good stuff now for Fireball as they've gained control of this high ground. CQB still can't get that turret up just yet, but they find that kill onto Rocket. So that's going to be a nice little bit of breathing room for Hong Kong Attitude. CQB lands the shot there onto Apudo. So now let's see if Fireball can keep this intensity of their attack alive. And you see Shayu obviously really taking it to NZ now in these Tracer v Tracer battles.
That one final kill by CQB back onto Apudo, getting revenge for the turret genocide there. But the fact is, Titawatt's still alive. Reinhardt's actually going to be quite hard to take down once he's on the point.
Well, they did manage to pick themselves up a mech, but also the Diva on the side of Hong Kong Attitude being taken down. NZ Na finally winning out and taking Shaolin down here. And that's going to be that. Unbelievable. I don't even know what to say right here. Fireball, in spectacular fashion, have taken Numbani away from Hong Kong Attitude and lead this matchup 2-0.
This is what I wanted to see out of Fireball, and Apudo, he's happy, he's hyped up. He's 2-0 up against Hong Kong Attitude right now. No one would have called this previous to tonight. In fact, even earlier on, I was saying it's still likely for Hong Kong Attitude to win, but look, Fireball were in this exact same situation that Hong Kong Attitude is in last night. They were 2-0 down, and the hybrid map quite honestly looked terrible for them. But Fireball have stepped it up now. Hong Kong Attitude absolutely can bring it back in a reverse sweep. That's what we saw Fireball do last night, but oh my god.
Well, Fireball have obviously found their form very late into the OPC, but better late than never, I would say there. Obviously, the final day of round robin play, and Fireball leading 2-0. Obviously, map number 3 going to be their pick as well. So very excited to see if Fireball can actually sweep Hong Kong Attitude. That's absolutely insane.
So Fireball show a pretty good preference for Temple of Anubis lately on Assault. I believe that's where they're going to take the map up against Hong Kong Attitude, although Hong Kong Attitude are happy to go to Anubis as well, so unless Fireball are looking to find a map that, well, might punish HKA instead, I believe we're just going to go to Anubis, where we're going to see probably both teams' strongest assault maps. So, look, this is still absolutely a series. I don't think there's anywhere that Fireball can really take Hong Kong Attitude where they're weak. So, still very competitive. Still absolutely possible for Hong Kong Attitude to come back, especially as on 2 out of the 3 assault maps, you see Sombra play a lot, and that's something that Hong Kong Attitude are fantastic at.
It'd be very beautiful to see, obviously, Fireball as well get themselves to double-digit wins, still sitting down there on 9. So, I mean, again, moving forwards, Fireball keeping themselves out of relegation, and obviously with Season 2 coming up, if they keep this level of improvement, you know, right now, taking it to Hong Kong Attitude, the 4th ranked team, they are going to be looking very confident moving into Season 2, Smite.
And also, I mean, like, they should be even more confident than that, because you're saying the 4th ranked team on the leaderboard, but their most recent performances really show otherwise. They've taken down very top teams. They've been showing massive improvements, and even though they fell short of taking down Flash Wolves, look, a lot of viewers would be rating this team as 2nd or 3rd right now instead. So this is actually massive for Fireball, not to just be winning the series, but to be 2-0 up, and also on Hong Kong Attitude's map pick nonetheless, absolutely demolished them.
I mean, it was really, the tone was really set from the start as well. You know, Fireball have really looked so strong in the series here. You know, those control maps obviously very close. You know, that's going to happen when you come up against strong players, you know, like K4, Shaolin, Ating being very good on the Winston. But taking a look at these replays here, I mean, this was when the overtime was ticking down, and just to see what actually happened there, there's the Dragon Blade coming through. You know, they're starting to edge ahead.
Yeah, and the Dragon Blade was actually pretty big, right? It did pick up a few kills, or at least get enough pressure for Fireball to have to start falling back. I mean, K4, he didn't actually pick up any kills with it, but the swings did enough damage, and this is where Hong Kong Attitude, they started taking control, but those 2 kills there, that's all that Fireball really needed, because you just need someone to be jumping around on the point, buying yourself time, because that close respawn is enough for your team to get back in and start defending. Another further 2 kills is surely enough to seal the deal on defending. I mean, not out by any means for Hong Kong Attitude, but in nice old-fashioned slow motion here.
It's Jin Kao who just steps
Watch
off the
that
point.
overtime.
Jin Kao just looking to get a few extra shots in there, going for the old kill steal.
And you can see CQB, he's like wall riding around the corner, trying to come back in. He's like, I'm almost there, guys. We can still contest this. And then he just sees the point disappear.
And I talked about the keys for success for the side of Hong Kong Attitude as well. You know, Mango Jai, obviously an absolutely insane player in himself, and you see him hit the sleep dart in that engagement as well. And then someone wakes Titawat up. And then Titawat actually, I believe, kills Mango Jai first as well. So Mango Jai is probably face palming immensely, being like, why? Why did you do it?
And this is just simply the attack where they won. I mean, Aputo committing turret genocide there. CQB does get his revenge eventually, but not without being traded back. This is already enough for Fireball to start moving in. But look, it's still even numbers, so they do have to do it carefully. But with a Reinhardt, careful is the middle name of your composition. So look, they just set themselves up.
Oh, that Fire Strike snipe as well from Titawat. He is absolutely, I guess, really been the X factor here for Fireball. I wouldn't really say it's entirely just him, but he's fit so perfectly well into the side of Fireball, really allowing them to move into a very strong team here.
And also K4, of course he's going to be hanging out on that balcony, up on the high ground, keeping himself safe. But look, when you've only got a third of the point that you can afford to give away, you kind of need to be down there eventually. I'm not going to say that was going to change the outcome of that fight, but it's just a position that you can see that they were in. There was not really a lot of room for error, and Fireball, they found those few chinks in the armor, and that's all they needed to get 1/3.
Most definitely, and I mean, moving forward here as well, Hong Kong Attitude, before they get into this next game, are really going to need to go back to the drawing board. They're really going to need to work out their team composition, their communication, because something's obviously not going right for them there. Obviously stepping off the point in overtime, you know, one of the, I guess, the most basic sort of things there, I think we heard this from Zonda last night, you know, when they talk about like who's on the point, and the DPS players generally being like, oh, that doesn't include me, I just kill people, you know, like Jin Kao obviously not being a DPS player, it's one of his core sort of, I guess, responsibilities in the team there is to maybe be communicating that sort of call. Who's on the point if I'm going to step off and go for a sneaky little shot around the corner? And I mean, it's not like D.Va does a lot of damage in that situation.
It's an easy mistake to make, right, in the heat of the moment. I mean, very, very critical. And
well, I mean, when you play at the top level...
Yes, that's the thing though, right? Like, it can be something that can happen though in the heat of the moment, especially, by the way, they were throwing themselves at a brick wall for the entirety of their attack. They finally find this fight where it's an overtime. They are just barely scraping by, just barely winning this fight, and they've got reinforcements around the corner. And they say, it's very easy to forget, like, if we get this kill, then we win. And stepping off the point, you've forgotten how long you've been in overtime. And even in the slow motion replay that we just saw, it ticked down so quickly. And it's just that small amount of time where you can make that mistake. And you can talk about how it's at the top level of play, but look, you step off the point for less than a second and you lose it. That's crushing.
You'd love to hear their comms at this point, you know, like, are they feeling pretty good? Do they have the tenacity to sort of come back and reverse sweep Fireball now moving through the series, or are they on full tilt? Can they do anything, do you feel, moving forward?
I mean, look, after they lost that attack, their comms were either incredibly loud or just dead silent. There's no in between for that. But you could see Fireball's faces as well. They were ecstatic after that.
Well, Fireball finally finding some form in the final day of round robin play, taking on Hong Kong Attitude, leading the series 2-0. When we come back, it's going to be map number 3. Hello and welcome back to the Overwatch Pacific Championship English broadcast. I'm Dallas Easy Fight today. Joining me, as per usual, Matt Smite Ross. Currently watching Fireball take on Hong Kong Attitude, and taking them on is exactly what they're doing as they lead the series 2-0 with an absolutely amazing performance is all I can really say. I'm almost left speechless here as Hong Kong Attitude, one of the stronger teams in the tournament, have now been really shown up here this evening by Team Fireball.
I mean, taking them on or taking them down, because that Numbani was super one-sided, right? I mean, first held by Fireball on Numbani, the map that Hong Kong Attitude picked. They didn't even get a single third. They made a crucial mistake of stepping off the point, even for a second, and they paid for it dearly. I mean, look, they could have lost that fight anyway, because Fireball were looking to come back into control of it, but look, that's just devastating.
Well,
but I predicted it before
you
the
mentioned,
break. Temple of
exactly
Anubis.
that. And I mean, Fireball had a very strong performance on this last evening against AHQ. Can they repeat this against Hong Kong Attitude? I'm feeling like they can.
That Sombra we just saw, that's Mango Jai on Temple of Anubis, right? He's such a unique player when he comes to the Sombra on Anubis, right? He'll play it on attack sometimes, and that's not just for the second point either. He'll bring it into the first point. Some teams have been doing this as well, but not nearly as often and as early as Hong Kong Attitude have been bringing this strategy out. And in fact, he'll get ahead of himself. If he thinks his team is about to cap that first point, even if they're still literally in the fight, he'll be sprinting off to that second point, trying to hack the health packs before the defending Sombra can come out and start hacking them up instead. So very aggressive, very risky, but a lot of reward can come with that kind of play.
I mean, the Sombra play coming out last night from Fireball as well, I believe it was Kurlos on the Sombra last night. He was very, very good. Not so much on the, I believe it was the defense, where he was very, very strong.
His defense came out a lot because the one important thing to do, especially because almost every team is running a Sombra on attack for that second point now, you need to be hidden away from the attacking EMP. So as soon as they EMP, you can come out and counter it with your own one almost immediately. The quicker you do it, the better, because you shut down enemy ultimates, or at the very least, their ability to be used. And suddenly, both teams are in this terrible situation where no one can use abilities and everyone is dying anyway. And it takes away the biggest advantage, the biggest reason that teams are running these compositions, because it's not just a Sombra composition on attack and even defense now, it's the Reaper that comes out too. And a lot of teams tunnel on just getting that EMP into Death Blossom, one team kill cap on that point, and if suddenly you're EMP'd, you can't use that Death Blossom anyway, even if you've EMP'd the enemy team, as long as that Sombra's hiding. Well,
the other thing as well is obviously the left clicks doing so very much damage in that situation, but the other thing we've noticed as well is like AHQ's lineup last night, you know, bringing out the Hog and the Reaper together. I feel that if we see the similar sort of composition coming out from Fireball, you know, NZNA's Hog very, very strong. So in this sort of matchup here, I feel that they might be able to really take it to Hong Kong Attitude with a little bit of a surprise. And also it is their map pick, so they will be feeling very confident going into Temple of Anubis.
Well, I mean, also remember, right, Numbani should not have been a map that looked good for Fireball, but instead it did, because it certainly didn't look good last night. But look, they did about as well as they could have against Hong Kong Attitude. And now this is the point where if they were playing up against AHQ in the series, this is where they actually brought it back with a very competitive Temple of Anubis. It did come rather close, but I believe they got like 90% of the second point capped, and Hong Kong Attitude, AHQ got just over a third. So close. It was a close match for sure, but let's also, the big thing was they capped that first point, again, about as quickly as you possibly could. So watch out for Fireball's first attack.
Well, we're about to get into Temple of Anubis, map number 3 between Fireball and Hong Kong Attitude. Fireball obviously up 2-0. Everything now for Hong Kong Attitude rides on this. Obviously nothing can really affect the standings, but it's really for pride, for honor. Can they get themselves back into the series, or are Fireball going to clean sweep them?
So for Fireball, it might not mean a huge amount apart from the smiles that might come onto their face, but for Hong Kong Attitude, this is a little bit showing for them as well. Like, they've been a team that have looked fantastic, and now that they're suddenly dropping maps, when we come into Season 2, this is where teams can start taking advantage of that. Yes, there's going to be some time for them to work out those errors that they made, but look, could be a little bit worrying for them.
Well, we see it's going to be Fireball on the defense first, Hong Kong Attitude attacking. And as you mentioned, Smite, I mean, the double Sombra play coming out on point number 1.
Yeah, we don't usually see it on the first point, which is interesting, but this is actually Fireball predicting that Mango is going to bring the Sombra out on attack. Having those health packs already hacked brings a lot less value for Mango. They cannot just hold up in that top room.
A big fight going up towards the big health pack, and Hong Kong Attitude slightly edging themselves ahead as they manage to take out Titawatt and now gain control of the big health pack room here. And now K4 just looking to really be that thorn in the side of Fireball as he's just going to town up in here, as there's no real contestant coming out, as well as he's got Xiaolin and a Ting to back him up.
And coming close up to that EMP, and I'm going to talk about how he got that health back a little bit later, but once this EMP is ready, that should be enough for Hong Kong Attitude to secure this fight. In fact, actually, they've already picked up enough kills. Expect Mango Jai to just start sprinting off to the second point to start hacking those health packs.
Yeah, Fireball need to fall back at this point here. Very explosive start from the side of Hong Kong Attitude, somehow winning that engagement up in the high ground there, and now looking to snowball their way onto cap number 2, still holding that EMP sound barrier and the pulse bomb. K4 getting very close to the Dragon Blade Smite.
So really interesting is how how Mango Jai got that top health pack in that room, because Fireball should have known that that was what was going to be played by Hong Kong Attitude, so they should have had that health pack hacked well in advance. But speaking of health packs, it's going to be the one under the bridge hacked.
Well, Kurlos holding on to his EMP as well, and I mean, we saw some great counter EMPs last night. He's going to have to come up with a lot more of the same coming into this here on cap number 2. Obviously, Hong Kong Attitude, 6 minutes to work with to really take this cap down. There's the Dragon Blade coming through from K4. Can he find anything? He finds a Pudo, as a Pudo going onto that Genji there. Won't be long for this world. Shayu as well going to be finding Kurlos there, so no counter EMP as the sound barrier now for Hong Kong Attitude, really looking to roll their way into cap number 2, looking to get at least a third out of this piece of offense. A lot of contests now coming through from Fireball. Rocket doing a very good job to keep their hopes alive on this point here. Shayu getting pounded down there by Titawatt. Insane again on that Winston, and now K4 looking to get back into the fray. But not many Hong Kong Attitude players left on the point. Nice hack here to stop him in this room from dashing out, and now Fireball stabilize and are in control.
And a lot of that actually came from the fact that, well, Fireball, they were actually hacked on the initial attack, so that's where Hong Kong Attitude got a lot of their initial ground from. But like you said, during that, Rocket actually just wall riding around the point just bought them so much time for the reinforcements to come out anyway. So look, Fireball, they've stabilized, they've got their own EMP. In fact, Apudo dying so early in that fight means that he can actually use Dragon Blade during this defense.
And now Hong Kong Attitude looking to really take this fight under the bridge and gain control of that big health pack there. There's Kurlos with the EMP. Mango Jai actually got another one up as well, so he drops his as well as a Ting slaps Apudo back to the spawn. NZNR also there to join him. So now no DPS left alive for the side of Fireball, and here it comes. It's Sneaky Beaky Rocket flying up into the sky yet again, having such a hard time dealing with this Lucio right now. The self-destruct will be finishing off 9th here, and the sound barrier through from Fireball to get themselves back into this fight. And look at Rocket doing a great job at making a Ting waste so much time at taking him down, as Fireball now getting the respawners in back onto the point. But that sound barrier for Hong Kong Attitude doing huge work for them here, as they're able to continue this fight on, keep a lot of pressure onto this point, get these respawners, and now they're going to be getting themselves a lot of cap time. Very close to getting this 1/3 here. Shaolin going absolutely insane. K4 switching up to that Reaper as well, so much sustain here on the second cap.
Yeah, I mean, look, they've got all 6 members there.
Oh, it's going to be that. It's so close. The contest, though, just in the nick of time. Everyone from Fireball throwing bodies onto the point. You see Rocket switching up to the Mei here as well. Apudo with the Dragon Blade. He's not holding it this time. Throwing it out. Can he come up with any kills, though? Rocket will be the one to finish off K4, but Shayu Lin definitely turning up on this Tracer here, being so elusive and dishing out oodles and oodles of damage here in this situation. And another sound barrier coming through from CQB.
This is a very extended fight, but that's it. That's Fireball securing it for them. They should be able to hold just here. Unless Hong Kong Attitude pull out a miracle, they're going to have to regroup and try and cap the last third. But wow, that's a lot of time spent on that.
NZNR with the bailout pulse bomb there. Apudo's Dragon Blade was not able to find enough in that engagement. And just when it looked like things were over for Fireball, NZNR with the pulse bomb. And now Hong Kong Attitude with 2/3 capped here, so can be looking very good as they've got 3 minutes left to work with.
Rocket should probably remember to swap onto a healer, because that's going to leave them with only Kurlos healing up the team. It's going to make it so much harder for 9th and Titawatt to survive during these engagements, relying entirely on health packs.
Well, I mean, it'll be very interesting to see if he's trying to get up a Blizzard before he switches back. If Hong Kong Attitude are aware of this weakness here, they could really look to go in as well, as Fireball have they're not even close to really big ultimates just yet. They will have an EMP very soon. If they can find an opening here, this will be a great time for them to engage.
Yeah, and also they've got to keep an eye out for that pulse bomb as well.
Oh,
okay.
Not today though. Apudo cutting them down in that back room there, not having a bar of it, and that's going to really thwart that attack from Hong Kong Attitude.
And who needs healing if you can just kill people, right? And now that they've got Blizzard, and this is a good route. Double kill.
Triple.
This is actually just really buying them a little bit of extra time, because Hong Kong Attitude were already on the retreat anyway. So yeah, this is now going to be a pulse bomb that's not available for the next defense, but looking at Fireball's ultimates, they may not even need it. They can just throw Blizzard out, and that's enough to just buy them so much time for, if they are even losing the fight, they can just get the reinforcements out in time anyway. It's not like there's a Zarya on the enemy team. You just have to worry about Jin Kao eating up that Blizzard, because it is a projectile that can be very easily taken up by that defense matrix.
Well, both EMPs up as well here. Kurlos versus Mango Jai, the battle of the EMPs. Who's going to land the stronger one? Will Kurlos wait for that counterplay, or will he try for the early engagement as Fireball look to take this fight towards the end of the match here? 1 minute 30 left. The first EMP coming out from Kurlos here, managing to catch a few of these Hong Kong Attitude players under the bridge. Ninth going to be able to find a Ting. K4 sent back as well. No mech on top. CQB finding a little bit of a consolation kill there onto NZNA, but they do not have the numbers to push into this fight. Apudo, oh, nicely timed headshots there onto Jinkao, really staggering out these respawns. 1 minute 10 left. Hong Kong Attitude running out of time here, Smite.
The thing is, Hong Kong Attitude have to be so careful with how they engage. Give Fireball an inch and they will come in and take a team fight, because all they need to do is pick up 1 or 2 kills on you, because they have a Mei, they have enough time to buy even more time so that their reinforcements can come in and eventually just flood the point with 6 members once more. Hong Kong Attitude can't afford to lose anyone.
Oh, great pick there though. K4 managing to find NZNA, so no pulse bomb. Have to be aware though, because he can get himself back into the frame. Mango Jai with the big EMP. Here comes Apudo's blade though. Needs to come up large, but Hong Kong Attitude edging ahead here on player numbers. The Blizzard was thrown out, but doesn't look like he's getting too much done with it here. Now a Ting with the Primal Rage looking to go to work. Tita Watt still doesn't have his up just yet, but now Apudo back into the thick of things, picking himself up a double. That's surely going to be enough to put things back in the way of Fireball, and Hong Kong Attitude smartly retreating as there's only 15 seconds left. If they can wait for these respawns and get another fight, oh, that's disaster here for Hong Kong Attitude. K4 though, jumping right onto NZNR, punishing that aggression for the side of Fireball.
That doesn't matter. He already had his ult. NZNR is going to be back up in time, but it's going to be Hong Kong Attitude dashing for the point. They have to get in there. This Death Blossom has to kill everyone.
Well, Shayu dropping the pulse bomb there, doesn't catch too much with it, and nor does that Death Blossom from K4. Panic mode engaged here for the side of Hong Kong Attitude, and now Tita Watt with the Rage as well. Going to be able to easily deal with a Ting up in this corner. Oh, and indeed he does just hunt him down there. Ends it now, as you mentioned, Smite back into the thick of things here. Apudo very close to the blade here. Oh, nice shot there, taking out Shayu, and that's going to be that. Fireball hold it down, but Hong Kong Attitude getting themselves a very strong percentage on the second cap.
Yeah, and this is actually more than the amount that Fireball were able to win Anubis against AHQ with. So this is not a losing position at all for Hong Kong Attitude. They definitely have it within the realms of possibility to take out the victory here and bring us to a 4th match. But at the same time, Fireball are a team that absolutely can bring it down as well. They've got the potential to snowball immensely through that first point. They've done it before. They've taken it about as quickly as possible. I mean, Hong Kong Attitude got it on the first push, so they'd be fighting with on equal terms if Fireball can do it on the same push. But they're not a team that generally runs the Sombra on attack for the first point, so it's going to be a bit of a different shake-up.
I think it's going to be also quite interesting to see if Fireball do opt to go for that 0.1 Sombra as well and try to do a similar thing that Hong Kong Attitude just did, roll with that momentum EMP into the second point rather than making the switch after they cap. I think that'll be a good showing to see if they're trying to play their own style of Temple of Anubis, or if they're really falling into maybe Hong Kong Attitude's trap a little bit.
They also have the option of running ninth on Widowmaker, because they did that last night, and it's also part of how they got through the very first point so quickly, right? It just put out so much pressure. The defending team just could not be flushed out, and flushed out they were, and that was easily a pickup for them in the end anyway. So that's an option. We might see Widowmaker come out. I don't expect to see Sombra come out on the attack unless Fireball have been trying new things.
Well, it looks like Hong Kong Attitude going to be busting out a Torbjorn. First turret being placed in the back corner. Look at that, 9th on the Widow, surely just looking to get some of these early shots. Will be interesting to see if he does stick onto this.
This is also Hong Kong Attitude calling it out a little bit as well, because, oh, okay, the different thing here is that Fireball, they are not running the Mercy with 9th, so they actually have 5 members on their team to move in, push the defenders out, flush them into his line of sight, so he can get value out of it. Now, Another key thing as well is getting control of this room, because you push them slightly, a little bit further off away from that balcony, and that's when 9th is going to get those shots.
Well, do Hong Kong Attitude have the patience to not peek into 9th's shots here? That's also the other thing to look out for, as 9th going to be looking to open things up with a shot with that Widowmaker. And last night we saw Hong Kong Attitude being very patient with not peeking into 9th, so we'll see if the same thing happens there. Losing Rocket, not the best start here for Fireball. Things are looking dire as they're losing a lot of health across the board, and without that Lucio, do not have much to sustain them through it. Titawat being able to pick up a ting there, but already losing that damage for the side of Fireball is going to stop this attack.
Yep, so already they've failed to win it on the first attack, so they are going to be fighting with unequal terms when they move on to the second point instead, but they're coming in for one more attack. Nano Boost is an option for Hong Kong Attitude, but who do you throw it on? Arting is really the only option until Tactical Visor is on the table.
Well, Hong Kong Attitude have really favoured throwing the Nano Boost here onto a ting as well. He's been able to find a lot of room with the Nano Boost really taking out the back line, and as we see it coming through yet again, but misses the jump actually, so this Nano Boost going to waste here. Ends in now finally dealing with the turret, and now this is surely a time where Fireball can look to move in there, but not with that pulse bomb being landed onto NZNR. Kurlos being taken down as well. Xiaolin being such an annoyance here for the side of Fireball, not letting anyone get up through this high ground, consistently contesting.
Well, at the very least, the failed jump was kind of funny, but another thing about Torbjorn, armor has been rolling out for a while now. You're now facing down Traces with 225 health, Winston's with armor on top of their already big health bar, and in fact, they already have armor as well. This is going to be quite a tough team to crack. It also stops one-shots coming out from Knight's Widowmaker, and body shots as well are going to be much less effective.
Yeah, I'd really like to see Fireball switch it up right now. Big Pulse Bomb being thrown out there, doesn't connect with anything as Apudo does manage to find that kill onto K4, is holding the Dragon Blade here, so this is now looking like a good moment for Fireball to pick themselves up the first cap. Transcendence coming through. Will Apudo commit the blade? Might not even need to here. Good Reflect goes for the dash kill, cannot find Xiaolin, again ever so elusive. Now K4 does indeed have his tack visor. The Molten Core coming in from CQB, but as they stack up in the room there, Apudo manages to cut them up, and now they're going to fall back here. K4 gets taken out, still holding onto that tactical visor though. Now Mango Jai making the change, same with CQB also. So Fireball do cap themselves the first point, but only 5 minutes to work with here.
So Hong Kong Attitude might have been able to hold on to that tactical visor and even the pulse bomb as well, but they did swap both their support, so this is a moment of opportunity for Fireball to go in, try and bait out those DPS ultimates, just try and go for a bit of an economical push, because they don't have enough snowball to actually win it on this first push.
We see NZNR and Xiaolin getting into another 1v1 Tracer duel. Here's K4 in a great flanking position. The defenders have become the attackers in this situation, going to work with this attack visor. No one to really contest, picking themselves up the player advantage there. Apudo does manage to take out Mango, but Mango, when he gets back, will indeed have that EMP. So very well played here from Hong Kong Attitude on their defense, stopping any kind of snowball from Fireball.
Unfortunately, Fireball just kind of went blow for blow in terms of ultimates, right? They threw out the sound barrier just to try and counter out that tactical visor. Unfortunately, that was not going to be a winning fight for Fireball. They did not have nearly enough advantage from the first point. They were already fighting from the back foot. So once more, it's going to be a few more economical pushes. Hong Kong Attitude have found enough time to do another swap up, get K4 onto that Reaper now that Tactical Visor's gone. This is going to be the condition that they're playing for, getting that Death Blossom.
Oh, and I love that Reaper being picked up again by K4. It's going to be very hard now for Fireball to push in on top of this Reaper just going to work here. NZNR needed to come up with the pick, doesn't connect. The EMP, or the hack actually rather, the EMP still being held now as Xiaolin just pulse bombs away Titawat, and K4 there to pick up NZNR. Fireball forced back once more.
Still trying to find their groove, but Fireball are a team, they're not running that Reaper just yet. I don't believe they will in this attack either. They're going to rely on Apudo's Dragon Blade at the very least, try and use that out of the way first, but I wouldn't be surprised if they just stuck with this anyway. Apudo, once more, he can actually just go huge on Dragon Blade, and that can be enough for them to get the entire point in one go.
Well, we'll see how this next fight is going to play out there. A lot of it riding on Apudo's Dragon Blade. They do have that Transcendence as well. Looks like they're going to be stacking up in the side room here, looking to really force the issue, but Mango Jai looking to get in there. Ooh, will actually stop. Now the Transcendence going to get the party started for the side of Fireball, looking to work their way in onto the point. The sound barrier from Hong Kong Attitude pushing them alive through this, but they lose K4, they lose Shio as well, so great start now for Fireball. Mango forced out of this fight here, did throw the EMP out there, but it doesn't really matter too much. but Fireball did lose a couple of members in this engagement. Aputo with the Dragon Blade able to find enough
They get
with
a third.
and enough zoning as they do pick themselves up now half the cap indeed. And can they manage to find any more? Tita Watt raging on the point here will be taken down. The Pulse Bomb doing enough damage on top of the pistols as well. And here we go. Hong Kong Attitude should be able to stabilize unless Fireball can come up with some massive kills.
They can stabilize for sure. Fireball need to back off, so start regrouping. That was an okay result, right? They got 1/3 of the point, and in fact, forced out a few ults of Hong Kong Attitude as well. The Primal Rage, the Sound Barrier, now not going to be on the table. K4 is taking forever to build up his Death Blossom as well, so Fireball, they've got time to go in for another economical push, build up to that Dragon Blade once more. Another key thing about using that to win your fights is that Aputo has to stay away from that hack, and it's so hard when you scream out in Japanese when you're going to go in.
Oh, well, Aputo finding that early kill onto Shayu. K4 there to make him pay, though. Quick trade coming through here. So 5-on-5 there. NZ9 actually killing himself. So very questionable stuff now coming from Fireball. They need to retreat, but K4 looking to hunt them down as well as the rest of this Hong Kong Attitude side. You got to love the aggression now coming out from them. This is what we want to see from Hong Kong Attitude if they want to keep themselves in this series.
This is something that you need to back away from immediately as Fireball, because that retreat there was what allowed K4 to get that Death Blossom up. And like I said, it's an ult that takes a while to build up, but now he's finally built it up, is going to have it ready for the next fight. You can certainly expect EMP to be on the table for the defenders, and that's going to be a very easy team fight to win, to say the least. And in fact, Hong Kong Attitude may even take it out in the courtyard.
Oh, well, Ninth needing to go back there and find himself another mech. But by the time he gets back here, Mango Jai going to be having an EMP of his own back. So with this just on the defense here, Hong Kong Attitude looking strong to hold on. Pulse Bomb almost up for Shayu. Same with the Primal Rage for a Ting. So Hong Kong Attitude looking in complete control of Anubis here. Fireball still needing to get themselves at least to the second, third.
Well, they've realistically only got like one fight left for now, so they can go in. They need to make it count right now with the Dragon Blade. Aputo has to go big.
Indeed he does. He's dropped the Dragon Blade. Don't see him coming up just yet. Great self-destruct. Going to be taking Rocket out. No sneaky skating on the point today, my friend, as K4 just left clicking Tita Watt down, still holding that Death Blossom. And with 30 seconds left to go, now it's panic mode engaged for Fireball, and they do not have that Dragon Blade to work with, nor that EMP.
Yeah, that was the fight that Fireball needed to win, and they threw everything they had at it. They've still got Sound Barrier, luckily for them, but Hong Kong Attitude, they've also got their Death Blossom. Fireball have to have been recording that. They need to know. They need to say, Rocket, as soon as you even think that there's going to be a Death Blossom, get that Sound Barrier ready because we need to survive it. But the EMP's there to shut it down anyway.
And there's Mango Jai's EMP going to be throwing it out, managing to connect into Death Blossom. It looks good. It looks great here now as Hong Kong Attitude just, oh my goodness, destroying Fireball's final attack. Overtime ticking down, and that's going to be that, Smite.
Oh boy, all right. So we are going to go to map 4. This is what we were expecting coming out from Hong Kong Attitude to be the team favorite to win here, but Fireball still made it very competitive. They still made Hong Kong Attitude work for that final cap. And remember as well how close they were to capping the second point entirely. So Fireball looking, I'm not going to say shaky just yet because it was an okay round on Temple of Anubis, but look, Hong Kong Attitude, they just played it better.
Indeed they did. I mean, getting 94% as well on the second point cap, so very strong from them there. The Death Blossom actually picking up the play of the game. You love to see it coming through. It's a very rare sight here, but the Reaper falling back into the meta ever so slightly.
Back into the meta of second point Temple of Anubis. But look, that's actually where Sombra started coming out on the second point of a few assault maps here and there, and has now been edging her way into a lot of other maps. So maybe we will see Reaper come out, especially with the PTR changes as well coming out. That's something that, you know, we'll talk about once that patch comes live onto the tournament server. But look, we're going to game 4. This is also where Fireball managed to bring it back against AHQ, where they took out Dorado. It's going to be Fireball's pick as well. So it's possible we might go to Dorado, but I'm feeling something a little bit different for Fireball.
It should be Hong Kong Attitude's pick, right?
Yes.
Wasn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
So Fireball obviously picking themselves Anubis. Hong Kong Attitude taking that one away from them, managing to get themselves at least a map win here. Fireball still in control though, leading 2-1, and now it will indeed be Fireball's pick. So it's now on the, oh sorry, you've confused me now as well.
I've ruined it for you.
Hong Kong Attitude's pick, so now looking to equalize the series and obviously take this all the way to game number 5.
Well, I definitely expect them to be able to do it. Because, look, They're a team that have been performing so well recently. They've slipped up in the first 2 maps for sure. And I'm even going to say not necessarily so in the first map, right? I wouldn't call that too much of a slip up. It was just Fireball were playing quite well and it was still very competitive anyway. It went to 5 stages on Nepal. It was also Fireball's pick. Now that we're coming into Escort, it can be Hong Kong Attitude to pick up the map. They can pick Dorado if they really want to, but we saw Fireball do well on it last night. So look, you've got the option to go now to Gibraltar. You could be fun and go to Route 66 because we don't see that enough. In fact,
oh yeah,
5 times in the entire OPC have we seen Route 66.
Well, I'm hoping they take it to Route 66 because it seems like it's probably the most, I guess, maybe it's the most unpracticed map for a lot of these teams in the OPC. And so if Hong Kong Attitude want to take it to Fireball and, you know, go for just raw player skill when it comes to this map, obviously both teams have played it before, at least I'd hope so. But this is where I think Hong Kong Attitude will be able to edge out over Fireball just due to sheer player skill in these engagements. But taking a quick look at some of these replays, this is when Rocket was still on the May here, and didn't really agree with this one too much.
I mean, look, the Blizzard zones out quite a lot of area, and this is actually an all right time to bring out the May, right? Because this is when, actually no, this is well after.
Yeah, this is when he had to change back.
Yeah, so that was a little bit interesting because, like I said during the match, right, it took away a lot of the potential healing for your team because suddenly there's no Lucio, and it's not like you can fall back on an Ana or a Zenyatta even healing your team. You've got to fall back on Sombra, who is healing your team through health packs. There's an enemy Sombra on the attacking team who's going to be trying to contest those health packs to be hacked anyway, so you're not even necessarily going to be getting them all. I mean, look, they held, it did the job, but look, it's not necessarily the...
I mean, the other thing was as well, the first point hold for the side of Hong Kong Attitude was very strong. Once obviously CQB got all that armor up, Knight's Widowmaker was really uneventful and very quiet for the entire attack here.
Yeah, didn't find a huge amount, but during this, K4 was contested for a huge amount of time, and in fact, during the fight that they actually capped the point, Fireball took him out before he could even use Tactical Visor. Now, it did kind of work out in favor of Hong Kong Attitude because they could actually use it on the second point, but it could have been the factor that actually held the first point for them, especially because if you could shoot down Apuda while he's throwing out the Dragon Blade, that could have very much saved your team fight right there and then.
I mean, they also, I think, got caught a little bit out of position when CQB tried to sort of run back inside, and Apuda was Dragon Blading both him and possibly Mango, I think.
Yeah, I think Mango was in there.
And so, I mean, getting enough value out of that one Dragon Blade there. But I mean, Fireball had already gained themselves such a strong position on that first sort of attack. But because Hong Kong Attitude did hold on for so long, I think Fireball might have been able to get themselves a little bit more of the second point cap if they did have that extra minute to work with. But they did get forced they had to force their hand a little bit too quickly on cap number 2.
Yeah, the other thing as well is that they had to spend a lot of ultimates to cap the first point, whereas Hong Kong Attitude didn't. And they could not take any kind of advantage into the second point at all, so that wasn't really an option. Also, the fact that they did kill K4 early on so he could hold on to that Tactical Visor means that, well, look, it was there for the second point. But this next replay, this is the final fight in desperation, like you were saying, for Fireball. Once the EMP comes out, of course K4 is going to get a massive Death Blossom. I mean, it's really just quite pretty to look at, to be honest. It's what you expect to happen when a team that's got less than 10 seconds left to rush onto the point. They've all got to go through the same area. They're all going to be hit by the EMP, and then Death Blossom's going to clean everyone up.
Exactly that, and I mean, the EMP placement, I think, was slightly ahead of Kurlos throughout this sort of matchup here. I mean, I thought last night Kurlos's counter EMPs were very, very strong, but tonight falling a little bit short, I think, and those, I think, were the very decisive changes that decisive things that were putting Hong Kong Attitude ahead. But speaking of Hong Kong Attitude and being ahead, they picked Dorado, which obviously Fireball had a very strong showing on last night. So going to be very interesting to see why and how Hong Kong Attitude picked this and how they're going to, I guess, you know, deal with the onslaught of Fireball that comes with Dorado.
So Fireball's main strength actually last night on Dorado was on their defense. It fell a little bit short when they were on the first checkpoint, which in my opinion is one of the stronger first checkpoints to hold on defense, but they let it slip through their fingers in basically a single team fight. And then on second checkpoint, they basically swapped Ninth back onto the Diva and suddenly started getting great results. Tita Watt was also a massive factor as well, buying themselves so much time, stalling on that payload so often, especially at the last second. And actually, they held the payload less than 3 meters before the third checkpoint, right? That could have been a completely different game if that hadn't happened. So a lot of great things. Second checkpoint on Dorado, so that's where Fireball looked great. They looked like any team should have when they're on the attack, right? They broke through the first checkpoint eventually, and then second checkpoint, it was business as usual. You win a few team fights, you eventually get there. So it's nothing fantastic on their attack, but their defense, stopping it before the third checkpoint, pretty great.
Well, about to get into Dorado. Fireball currently leading the series 2-1 over Hong Kong Attitude. Obviously, this is indeed their pick, looking to equalize on Dorado. And I'm really hoping we get to see all the way to point number three in this one. Obviously, a little bit elusive in last night's Dorado match.
A little bit elusive, and it does have some fun things about it, but we'll talk about it once we get there.
If we get there.
There you can see it. We've got there, but hopefully the teams can make it
feels
there.
like home.
It feels like home. The third checkpoint of Dorado, I'm not really feeling it, but you know, you do you.
That's what my house looks like. You know?
Oh, really? Oh, nice. I'll have to come over sometime. But
I wish.
You wish? Oh, look. Just invite me and I'll come over one day. But look, Dorado. We saw Fireball on it last night. Hong Kong Attitude, though, how are they going to fare on this? Breaking through the first checkpoint is definitely going to be one of the more important things to do. It will be...
Oh, not this again.
Not this again?
Ninth Soldier.
Ninth and his Soldier. Now, look, it can work a little bit better on the first checkpoint, of course. There's a lot of high ground to work with, and even Tracer, who doesn't actually have a lot of vertical mobility, can blink between those buildings on defense. So there is a lot of room for triple DPS to work here. And also, Hong Kong Attitude, it's not like they're running Dizzy. They're running K4 on the Genji instead, so a Diva isn't 100% necessary.
I mean, we've got to give props to K4, obviously very strong player, managing to sneak his way up now behind these Fireball players. They all converge in managing to almost get cut down together, but Titawat going to be the first to fall. Great first collapse attack there from Hong Kong Attitude, jumping on Fireball up onto that high ground. Now they're going to be able to make a decent amount of movement on this payload. And look at this, Shayu getting right in there. Great communication and great coordination coming out from Hong Kong Attitude as they destroy Kurlos, destroy NZNR as well. And what is this first point defense from Fireball? It's non-existent.
Oh, Hong Kong Attitude, just finding the kills at the perfect times. Fireball needed to back out or at least commit to a fight there, 5v6, right? Having those deaths right at the end means that they only barely get a contest here.
Well, they're going to be going straight back into things, and Titawat dead again before he even can say hello to the side of Hong Kong Attitude, who are not having a bar of it here, just wiping out this Fireball defense, walking all over them, and now the point has been capped and we're going to the streets.
And it's going to be Shayu Lin, the closest up to his ultimate. And Hong Kong Attitude, they're going to want to contest this high ground, give Fireball absolutely no option of using it. But hey, there it is. Knight swapping back onto that Diva right now. This could be where they find a little bit more success. Apudo will be staying on that Genji, very likely just to use that Dragon Blade, because despite losing those team fights, he's actually got it before K4.
Well, Shayu in getting a nice amount of information there, really not letting Fireball feel too comfortable. And now they're going to be jumping off the high ground. It's going to be Titawat looking to get this party started for the side of Fireball. There is the Pulse Bomb Eaton there, not being too useful, but they're still finding the kills here, Smite. Oh my God. My goodness, Hong Kong Attitude just rolling on through Dorado. It looks like nothing can stop them here at this point.
Look, this is a completely different story here. The difference is with Knight swapping back onto that Diva means that K4 doesn't really care too much about a Diva, especially once Dragon Blade starts coming into play, and you can bet your bottom dollar that that is going to happen just before we get to the third checkpoint here. Hong Kong Attitude have 5 ultimates right now, and Shayu Lin is definitely going to be close to his next one.
Yeah, great play here. Now comes the Dragon Blade coming through, finding Rocket as he tries to skate away with his life there. The sound barrier as well from Hong Kong Attitude, so a lot of commitment, not letting Fireball stop them here on this point. This is where we saw such a strong piece of defense come out from Fireball, but it doesn't look like it can repeat.
Apudo.
Unless Apudo's Dragon Blade can come up big, but not today, as Jinkao going to be there just to finish him off. Big bold Pulse Bomb thrown out from Shayu Lin, doesn't connect with a kill, but the rest of Hong Kong Attitude there to follow. They're firing up right now, and they're looking to equalize this series if they keep playing like this on Dorado.
And that's the swap there. Apudo onto the Soldier, holding onto the Dragon Blade, holding onto the Genji because of the Dragon Blade just for too long. Now they're in the third checkpoint. It could be just too late. Now, Fireball absolutely can hold here. In fact, if they're going to hold anywhere, it's going to be the third checkpoint. They've even been saving up a few of their ultimates. Transcendence and Sound Barrier, that can allow them to live for a very long time if they stagger the ults.
Oh, and Mango Jai Shy finding the head of Apudo there, taking him out with a couple of balls to the face. And now Hong Kong Attitude looking to contest this high ground. Rocket being taken down as well. The fight is happening out on the payload, but with Kurlos all on his lonesome as Titawat's across the other side of the cart. No one to really protect him at all. Now Knight sent back as well. And look at this, Hong Kong Attitude since the start of this Dorado have not even been stopped.
The payload hasn't stopped, and in fact, apart from that Dragon Blade before by Apudo, no one has died on Hong Kong Attitude. They are still continuing on. They're running a little bit dry on ultimates, and this is where Fireball can bring it back, but that sound barrier really didn't find anything. It wasn't out to counter anything. They were trying to brute force a win, but they've still lost a member.
Well, Fireball not really having too much to work with themselves. Their Pulse Bomb not able to finish off that kill, but now NZNR finding K4. Very good start now here for Fireball to look to stabilize their defense there, but Ninth gone as well. No D before this side of Fireball. Apudo now looking to get very close to that tack visor. And that's a great one as well from NZNR taking down Shayu. So both DPS players having a little bit of trouble now for the side of Hong Kong Attitude. A Ting forced to retreat back. And finally, Fireball find some breathing room here, stabilizing that defense.
They find some breathing room, but there's still 3.5 minutes for Hong Kong Attitude to get this next push going. Hong Kong Attitude could spend the next 2 or 3 fights building the ults up for the rest of their team and then still win after that. In fact, they've already got 3. They could win off of this fight. They just need to deal with Apudo and his tactical visor, because then that gives all the freedom in the world to K4 and that Dragon Blade.
Well, nicely placed self-destruct from Jinkao could really give them that position to get on in and get things done. Now just probing around, trying to find some openings here. Oh my goodness, NZNR has to be careful there. Almost getting caught out of position, looking to build up that pulse bomb. Now has it in hand. And there we go, we see the self-destruct being thrown out there. Doesn't connect with anything, just looking to weed out any of these Fireball players on the high ground. Now, Transcendence for Fireball, sound barrier for Hong Kong Attitude. Fight breaking down here as now CQB gonna hit that sound barrier as well. But it didn't look like it was long on these Hong Kong Attitude players. There's a lot of damage was closing in on them very quickly, but the Dragon Blade from K4 doing enough to take Kurlos out of this fight. And here it goes here now. Apudo with the tactical visor still in hand. Needs to come up big, but Hong Kong Attitude edging ahead. Very aggressive now. Just looking to finish these few players off. But Titawat with the Primal Rage. The saving grace yet again for Fireball.
I want to say that for that fight, Fireball able to just edge out a win there simply because they overlap their defensive ultimates. Sound barrier, then into Transcendence, but Hong Kong Attitude, they threw them out both at the same time. Now that could have been just to keep Mango Jai alive from something like a Pulse Bomb, but in the end, their defenses just ran out a lot quicker. K4 couldn't find enough room to get any value, and if things were going a little bit worse for Fireball, they still had an option for Apudo to throw out the tactical visor inside one of those defensive ults.
Oh, Apudo with a great line here up on the balcony, managing to dish out a decent amount of damage. Here comes the tac visor, but he's already 2 players down. Not a good start now for the side of Fireball as a Ting all over him. Discord Orb landed as well, and this is going to be Hong Kong Attitude's moment to push this cart over the edge here. This is now when they've got that player advantage. Kurlos taken out now as well as K4 pushes in the back lines. Ninth trying to keep things alive, does have that self-destruct as well, dropping it right on top of the payload. Can Hong Kong Attitude keep themselves alive? Shayu can't, as he's now sent back to the spawn, so a little bit now falling in the way of Fireball, but they have a self-destruct of their own, and Titawat dead in his tracks right here, as K4 still keeping himself alive. Orb found its mark, and now the Transcendence from Fireball to buy them some time. Apudo trying to rush the point here, but there is Fireball players in numbers here. The Blade does find Rocket now from K4, picks up Apudo as well. That's going to be very great as they're still building a lot of momentum on this card here. What can Kurlos do? Nothing, as he's taken out here as well. Just going to be Ninth in the mech, trying to hold on for dear life. What can the rest of Fireball do? They're going to be needing to snowball back out and get onto this point. They can't do anything here as they're just getting picked off one by one, and surely Hong Kong Attitude going to be capping this one over 0.42 meters, and that's that there. Hong Kong Attitude cap it all the way through with 24 seconds left on the clock.
And K4 absolutely securing all the kills at the end there. The Dragon Blade coming out just as the Transcendence ends, and that's enough for, with the resets, him to pick up multiple kills where it looked like Fireball may have been able to come back there. They picked up 1 or 2 kills, and it could have been the moment for them to just slowly get that payload back under control, but K4 says, no way. I'm going to bring out the Blade, I'm going to get multiple kills, and that was that. And look, that was just the 3rd checkpoint. The 1st and 2nd checkpoint went by so quickly, they barely even felt like a factor in this entire game. And look, you wanted to go see checkpoint number 3, it's about as quickly as we can get there.
Well, I mean, Fireball did find some, obviously it's a very hard part of the map to push through there. You know, it is definitely favors the defenders, but Fireball did manage to find themselves a little bit of success, I feel, on checkpoint number 3. But 1 and 2, Fireball's defense didn't even exist.
It didn't. It didn't at all. And even Apudo, who managed to get some value out of the Genji on his defense, not necessarily kills, but getting that ultimate up, eventually, it felt like almost a liability because he was saying, look, I'm going to stay on the Genji for just a little while longer so I can get this Dragon Blade. And then he got 2 kills, but it was, by that time, half his team was already dead. So it felt like stage 1 of Nepal all over again. Just Genji holding a Dragon Blade for far too long, and Apudo and his team being punished so hard for it.
And that is just the Fireball story right there, is it not, Smite? Can Apudo pull the Dragon Blade out? Can he use it in time? Is he going to hold it for too long because someone on Fireball gets cooked and taken out a little bit too early into these fights? And then we see it right here. And now Apudo going to be playing that same Genji on the offense, seeing if he can find a little bit more success this time around.
Look, I can see the argument for it on offense, absolutely. Ninth as well on that Diva is going to be needed to just contest this high ground, push people off. And also, let's remember how Hong Kong Attitude approached this first attack. They sent all of their divers up into the area where Fireball were just all grouped up, but this is actually Hong Kong Attitude being the aggressive ones.
Oh, Enzin getting himself up onto the high ground balcony now. But look at this, better positioning from Hong Kong Attitude compared to Fireball's defense here. Not losing anyone at all just yet and almost dropping Apudo out of the fight also. And now Enzin looking to contest. But look at this, the two supports together saying, not today, Enzin. You can try it all you want. As a Ting finds Enzin, but Fireball with a little bit of an opening, dropping the mech and dropping Xiaoyu. There goes Jin Kao as well, so he's going to be able to get that mech back pretty quickly. And now, this is much of the same of the first offense. Fireball getting aggressive there. Titawat leading the charge with Apudo right by his side. And this is very good here from Fireball, looking to really seal the deal on this first cap.
And the difference was that's not Fireball punishing Hong Kong Attitude's mistakes, because they were just winning the team fight. They were in control the whole time. They were in control of the retreat that were coming out for Hong Kong Attitude. Now, they're not going to get a final moment of defense. Actually, I lied. There is going to be one. How strong will it be?
Let's see, though. They are sort of coming in one by one, and that's what they were looking for. But this nano boosted a Ting. If he can find the right targets up in the back line, it'll be a good start here. Kurlot's going to be taken out, but still losing 3 players of his own. Not so great here as Titawat hitting that Primal Rage, and he has been absolutely monstrous on this Winston, doing ample amounts of damage here with the punches, and indeed they take them all out here. Going to be getting that first cap, and now look how aggressive Apudo's getting up here, looking to de-mech Jin Kao once more.
Wow, that's actually huge because they're not going to allow him to get back into the mech at all. He's going to have to either run back to the spawn, swap in, or just jump off the edge, or somehow die. But they do get a pick back onto Apudo, which is actually pretty big. This means Hong Kong Attitude, especially with their own Dragon Blade, can come in and contest this payload early.
Apudo probably not too worried about that, can really make his way back to the fight. You can see him jumping along in the background there. Now Titawat trying to contest the high ground as Enzin Pulse Bomb's Mango Jai, exploding that one. K4's Dragon Blade finding nothing there as Apudo able to take out Jin Kao without the mech though, so still decently done here as Fireball again looking to get very aggressive. This is basically a Dorado match where defense doesn't even exist.
Well, defense at least on the first 2 checkpoints anyway. Hong Kong Attitude bought a little bit more time, but they're getting the kills. They're still continuing to pick them off. Hong Kong Attitude, of course, want to go for this last second defense, but what have they really got? They've spent all of their ultimates. Even Pulse Bomb's not going to
Jin Kao needs to get self-destruct. Oh, 93%, but he loses the mech. Beautiful timing here from Fireball.
They get it anyway.
Through that. There's that sound barrier as well for the side of Hong Kong Attitude, as Fireball have indeed kept it over, so they commit quite a lot into this fight here, using that sound barrier when it wasn't needed, and now Fireball might have a chance to do much of the same that just happened to them on their defense.
That was just like a crucial timing mistake there, thinking, okay, look, we can contest. Oh, wait, actually the checkpoint's actually been obtained. Our sound barrier is basically going to be useless even if we do win the fight here. So Fireball on a massive roll. They've got about as much time as Hong Kong Attitude had. They are still building up to their own ultimate. NZNR, if he can find a Pulse Bomb, that's enough for them to just push on on forwards.
He's probing up in the back lines here. They've got to be careful though. They are slightly getting caught out of position here. Xiaolin and Ating. And Xiaolin actually does pay the price. Rocket going to be able to finish him off. Here comes the self-destruct. Does it connect? Indeed it does. NZNR exploded there. And that's a nice frag coming through from Jin Kao. Nice sleep dart onto Apudo. No one waking him up as well as K4 with the blade wants to find some death for these Fireball players. Manages to catch Rocket as Apudo gets killed as well after he wakes up from his quick little nap there. Now Hong Kong Attitude stabilizing.
But for how long? They are still sitting on the Ana as well. Not sure if they're going to swap off of that, but they're going to have the Nano Boost available. They can just, they're not going to combo it, but they're going to throw it onto Arting. They've clearly shown the preference to doing that instead of going for Nano Blades. I can see that. Oh, that eat!
That was an absolutely insane defense matrix there. That Pulse Bomb would have been disaster for Fireball, but Shio's still in a great flanking position here. Still some of these Fireball players not so aware of him, but Kurlos getting it started there with that Transcendence, really nullifying this Nano Boost coming through from Mango Jai, being able to stop this one here. But K4 now finds Apudo. That sound barrier going to be keeping Hong Kong Attitude alive. Now Titawat finding his counterpart Winston. K4 right up in the back lines there, getting absolutely fried there by the lightning. Now the sound barrier from Fireball looking to really snowball through this fight here. Look at NZNR right up in the front lines there. Come on, he can surely get this one done here as these Hong Kong Attitude players are going to be throwing their lives all over this point here. And look at this, Fireball all over these defending Hong Kong Attitude players with so much more time on the clock as well. And 4 meters away now from capping this one all the way over. If we take this to time bank, yes, we are. Both teams capping this one out, but Fireball, so much time to work with.
Both of these teams are terrible on defense. No, I'm just kidding. The attacks from both of these teams have been fantastic. Just incredibly aggressive play here, and even down to the supports being really aggressive and how they use their ultimates. You could see a very early sound barrier coming out from Fireball in that final fight, just to brute force their way through the win, making sure they didn't lose a single player, because that's the key thing. When you're just on the end of a third checkpoint, you need to make sure you have every member of your team so that there's no chance for the enemy team to come in and flood the payload with those reinforcements, those respawns, and eventually take it back. Because that's what Fireball did to Hong Kong Attitude, right? They bought so much time. And because of that, now they have a huge amount of time to work with in the time bank.
And I mean, I still just can't get over Titawat. He just seems to be so very integral in how Fireball are sort of edging out on these fights. You know, they lose a Pudo early into one of these fights, and you think, okay, they've lost a Pudo here. You know, it's either all on NZNR or they're going back home there. And Titawat's like, no, don't worry, I'm just going to jump on this guy and jump on this guy and jump on this guy. And I'm just absolutely amazed here. But looking at this composition now coming through from Fireball, I really like to see this. This is what I would have liked to see them play on their first defense.
And they're also hiding it around a little bit too. So Hong Kong Attitude, if they do go for something similar, especially if they don't hit the scouting arrow, can't find anyone, they may be just jumping straight into a hook that's going to be deadly for Arting to jump into, and especially K4 and Shailin, if they get caught, they are dead.
And they do gain themselves a little bit of information here as K4 and Shai looking to get around the back and flank up onto this high ground, but they know they can't push in too easily into the Hog Reinhardt combo. They will be pushed back there as a Ting will jump into the high ground.
This is a composition that's fantastic at holding within the archway, especially against dive. There's not a lot of room for Genji and Tracer to just use all of their mobility tools to stay alive, so you can punish them. The Winston, he's jumping into a small area. You can easily hit him with a hook. This is a great area for Fireball to find. This is where they need to hold.
Well, he's going to need to come in with the big shot here. Lands the hook, pulls the Winston right in. They can't connect that and make that a kill for onto a Ting there. This is absolutely crazy here as K4 getting around the back lines. Apudo still remaining uncontested here now as K4 is forced to fall back to the rest of the team. Now overtime ticking down. Fireball have done a good job to really contest this first point here and try to stop this Hong Kong attitude in their tracks. But lands onto K4 and that's now an absolute shocker for Hong Kong attitude as they lose K4 early into this fight. Mango Jai able to finally finish off Titawat, but look at this, Apudo tactical visor wasting no time throwing it out, but that's right into Mango Jai's Transcendence. This might be an extremely ill-timed tactical visor, but not at all as that whole Hog's there just to finish things up and Fireball get the hold before cap number 1. Can they get it over the line on their offense? We'll find out.
Look, Hong Kong attitude, they didn't have a ton of time, about a minute I believe, so it's an okay push, especially the fact that they got it past the archway. That's all right, but it was really just Fireball holding it at the best point possible for them. They did get pushed back a little bit through the archway, but NZ&R, those hooks he was hitting were securing kills. The only time it didn't was when the defense matrix was up for Jin Kao. It did actually save, I believe it was Artang's life, and that kept them in there a little while longer. But look, it was just a fight that Fireball were just slightly winning, slightly ahead in just terms of damage, not even necessarily kills, and that's enough for them to get their ultimates first.
Well, Hong Kong Attitude going to be sweating coming into this defense. Obviously, Fireball, a lot of time to work with in the bank, and this being Hong Kong Attitude's pick, their last-ditch effort to keep themselves in this series, and Fireball looking to finish this one up 3-1. Only have to get past that, not even to the first cap, almost, just to the fountain, and they're going to be walking away with a win here. And are we going to see Rocket bringing the Rockets?
No.
No,
No,
I'd
we're
be
not.
lied to.
Unfortunately, players love to do that. But Fireball are going to be running a little bit different here. Is that? No, okay. I thought it was going to be NZ&R on the Widowmaker. Unfortunately, we're not going to see that. Just very standard coming up from Fireball, the exact same way they attack, not throwing any surprises into there once more. Remember, the first attack was actually pretty good for Fireball.
Well, Hong Kong Attitude looking to take this fight very early down on the low ground onto the payload there. As a team jumps in, Fireball still can't convert this one into any sort of kills here, as K4 sitting up on the high ground, still very uncontested. Now this is when Fireball need to jump onto him and stop this free reigning soldier, and now they're going to be falling back here as Fireball do make themselves some stronger position and really push them off that high ground.
Because Fireball have so much time, they can actually just play a bit conservatively until Apudo gets that Dragon Blade. That's going to be the big key thing to get them a victory. But look at the payload. It's almost at the point. This is where Hong Kong Attitude need to go in.
Well, hopefully it's not much like Numbani, and they do remember there is an objective that actually wins you the matchup here. And Fireball getting that player advantage. They lose NZ&R, but still have Apudo. Is anyone from Hong Kong Attitude able to contest in the nick of time? A Ting gets in there. He's very low though. He's already dead. And the Transcendence from CQB, the last-ditch effort here. Apudo with the Dragon Blade taking out Xiaolin. Wants to find himself CQB as well. And that's going to be that. And Fireball take the series 3-1. Unbelievable, Smite.
Fireball, what a team! What a team! And of all teams to beat Hong Kong Attitude in the final round robin, yeah, you expect Flash Wolves to do it, but Fireball beat them? That's incredible. And for their last match of the round robin, and in fact the OPC as well. That is how you want to finish things off. Fireball, what a performance.
I mean, you can see the joy on their faces as well in that final sort of celebration there. You know, and as I mentioned, it's not so much a victory that changes up the standings, but for virtues, for morals, for Thailand. They've done it. They've done it there, and that's an absolutely, they can walk away so happy with that, obviously still getting to play in OPC Season 2 there, escaping relegation. And now with Fireball picking up that series against Hong Kong Attitude 3-1, they're going to also get themselves their 10th win of the OPC as well. And look at that, little hugs going across the board from some of these players. They're not even just shaking hands there, you know, look at this, hugging and...
You've got to feel like you deserve a hug if you're Fireball right now. You've got to be...
Who is that? Is that Apudo? It is.
Apudo right at the front?
Yeah, I better give you guys some hugs there. I know it feels bad, man.
Apudo is definitely the one to rush to the front for hugs, right? he would get there right away. And I think it was actually him in the coach's place during the pre-game interview, actually. So he was the one giving out the hugs there too. So
all
really,
hugs. Maybe that's what he's doing. He's actually stealing your power when he gives you a hug. He's like, haha. It's kind of like Space Jam, you know?
Kind of like, I mean, they steal the power from the basketball, though.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So it's a little bit different, but it's kind of similar, I suppose.
But Hong Kong Attitude going to get themselves another chance. They will be taking on Sun Sister because they are playing back-to-back there. But let's just talk a little bit about Fireball. Their story, where they've come, obviously, through this tournament, starting off. My personal favorite, second favorite team. I was going to say favorite team, but let's be honest here, you know. Can't dog the. No, I remain unbiased throughout this entire tournament here. But Fireball, obviously, some of my more favorite little players through this tournament. Obviously, starting very shaky through the OPC, and now in the last couple of weeks, really improving form, finding their stride. Obviously, the addition of Titawatt being very integral to that. That's actually a lie. They do have 10 wins, double-digit boys. They're going to be happy with that. And obviously Hong Kong Attitude, a little bit of a fall from grace there, now dropping that game to Fireball.
I mean, yeah, a fall from grace, but if there's any time to do it, it's at the very end when it's not going to affect your performance. So it's not the end of the world, but again, back to Fireball's story. And even though they had a shaky early OPC, the very first round robin was actually okay for them. So you can see them in 6th place right now with the double-digit wins there. They were actually 5th at the end of the first round robin, ahead of Machi. Machi had their rise in power, and eventually they got as high as 4th place at one point. But Fireball, they slipped down a little bit, couldn't actually find wins against Machi. But look, it took until the final 2 weekends, but Fireball have done it. Even Hong Kong Attitude have done it in the final round robin. But look, after that performance, Fireball, they've got to have won the hearts of many more fans.
And I guess the other thing as well is moving towards Season 2, you know, showing the level of improvement that they had in just these final few weeks. That's where it's really going to be interesting, because they're obviously not going to be too happy with finishing. I mean, they're going to be happy not finishing last, of course, but finishing 6th, you know, there's so much room for them to now improve. You know, they want to obviously be at the top. Some of these players obviously playing in the Thailand team in the World Cup also, so they're going to be having a lot of time to work on, I guess, themselves and their team, I guess, you know, communication levels going into Season 2, and will definitely come in having something to prove.
I mean, all 6 teams that are not relegated right now, I feel like every one of them can take games off of each other, except Flash Wolves right now. They feel just untouchable right now, but
only dropping 10 maps is pretty astounding.
Exactly right. That's not games, that's 10 maps. The only 3 matches they've lost entirely. One of those was to Blank, and I think 2 of them to AHQ, possibly. Oh, no. Of course, the third one was to Hong Kong.
Machi.
No, Machi earlier on. Machi earlier on.
Machi earlier on. Yeah, Machi with that astounding upset over Flash Wolves. I mean, they can also be happy with that. But, you know, it's some of the plays that, if Tita-Watt doesn't get player of the game, I'm going to be so... Who's picking this? I'll be so disappointed.
I've got to put my 2 cents in here and actually say that NZNR definitely deserves contention for player of the match, especially during Nepal. First stage, yeah, all right, like maybe he didn't get too much value out of it, but look, he did a stunning performance. But more on Dorado, though, which we just saw. We'll bring up the replay here, and this is actually going to be... Hong Kong Attitude's very first attack, which, remember, these first 2 checkpoints basically didn't exist for the defense. This is where all of Fireball were essentially stacked up into one area. A few of them had gone onto the payload to just contest it in a few of the last seconds, but...
So that sound barrier there, that might have been the slight overcommitment from Hong Kong Attitude? They were already winning the fight out. Did they really need to do it here? Because you see the timed Dragon Blade from Maputo comes in afterward, manages to pick up 2 kills.
Yeah, but at that point, it's not enough. I mean, you've also got to question the shot calling out there as well, right? If you've already lost half your team and the call for Dragon Blade is made, what are you really going to be getting out of that? It might buy you enough time for Tita-Watt to come in and actually contest the payload at the very last second. The sound barrier was in preparation for that Dragon Blade, so you're throwing it out preemptively, and even if Aputo is going to wait and still get 2 kills out of it, what is he really getting? Getting a bit of pride, but...
The other thing as well, just to sort of think about that, is on their next fight, that's when Fireball do win. And so that's when the momentum was shifted there. So even though I can see why they obviously threw the sound barrier in that situation, looking at the entirety of the map, and I mean, obviously we have this amazing oversight of obviously what's happening. We can see the percentages and everything, but that's when Fireball really do get to turn things around. But taking us back into the replay here, I think this is when they do start finding a little bit of breathing room.
This is Fireball's final push.
Oh, it's a final push.
Yeah, this is Fireball on the attack. And
blind as a bat.
and this is actually where the self-destruct doesn't actually find anything, but it's where K4 unfortunately couldn't find the value. He used Dragon Blade earlier on, didn't find much out of it. So Hong Kong Attitude were really running dry here. It was actually mostly an ultless fight, but the sound barrier was what was enough for Fireball to brute force their way through. And because of that, they survived long enough to get the damage on the carries to actually just use their own ultimates, or that was at least the plan until Tita-Watt killed everyone.
And then also NZNR there as well. Fair enough, you know, you want to say he's the player of the match there, really creating so much zoning potential there for the rest of Fireball, just pushing right up to that front gate, stopping those squishies from getting out there, you know, still holding that pulse bomb for a decent amount of time until the very, very end once that payload gets super, super close. He has definitely sort of shown up as well as, you know, as you mentioned yesterday, you know, he's very, very strong on that tracer, and I mean, Fireball can only go up from here, I feel.
Definitely. I mean, they've got an entire second season to start proving themselves. They've got a bit of a break now that the OPC is over for them. So they can start working on the few flaws that we have seen, but clearly they've already started doing that. The ability to pick up a win, a series win, a 3-1 series win, and take it out against Hong Kong Attitude is amazing. And who's that player of the match there?
And the player of the match goes to NZNR. Obviously, huge clutch plays, but I mean, that's what's going to happen when you play Tracer. Let's never ever talk about the glory that is the Winston that has just been so consistent in securing them wins, but sure.
Look, I would definitely put Tier 1 up there as well. I know, but NZNR definitely a fantastic Tracer player, really stepping up against the enemy Xiaolin. Right?
Yeah, I guess that's probably why we can really say that, because Xiao is obviously shown up as one of these sort of better DPS players in the tournament, and I even mentioned this before we got into the game that I thought Xiao was definitely ahead of NZNR in that regard, but now, obviously, NZNR. In those 1v1 duels, Xiao was 9 times out of 10 taking him out, and like Tracer v Tracer, but I mean, obviously that is not what wins you the game.
Not at all, right? You've got to be finding the value in the backline supports, focusing the tanks when they're jumping on. Yeah, the Tracer duels are fine to participate in as long as there's nothing else going on in the background that you're actually meant to be doing. Taking out the enemy Tracer, that's a great thing to be able to do.
Well, we've just seen Fireball pick up their 10th win of the OPC in their final match. Hong Kong Attitude getting taken down there. They did manage to get themselves a map win, but obviously not enough to close out the series. Coming up next, we're going to have Hong Kong Attitude. They get themselves another shot at picking a win up against Sun Sister. Obviously, Sun Sister looking to get themselves still their first win of the OPC. After that, we're going to have Sun Sister and Detonator Gold, the battle of these two Japanese teams. Can Sun Sister get themselves off 0? We will find out. And to finish off the final match of the night, Flash Wolves will be taking on Detonator Gold. We're going to go to a break, and when we return, obviously all the action here on Full Circle. We'll see you then.